Hello and welcome back to the Goat Cave podcast. Before we jump into today's interview, I just want to let you guys know that we came out with some new merch. We got new stickers that are they're the frame stickers. So basically, the lettering is actually cut out of the sticker and it matches the color of your frame. If you want to help support the show, head over to HVXgoat.com and pick some up. And yeah, that'd be awesome if you do that. Anyways, today, our guest today has lived one of the craziest lives with so many once-in-a-lifetime experiences. From being a legend in the BMX world, who is responsible for so many beloved BMX products from Sunday and Odyssey, to running every street in the city of Buffalo and having the date May 29th, 2016 declared its official day to recognize his achievement of doing so. He even went to speak publicly about his experience on one of the TED Talk events in Buffalo. After conquering the 20-inch side of the BMX world, he stepped it up by becoming the best rider to ever ride 24-inch freestyle BMX. At least that's the opinion of so many BMX riders around the world, myself included. One thing is for sure, Jim Cielencki is one of a kind. That being said, let's jump into this. Jim, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Wonderful. It's a great Sunday morning, you know? I love doing these in the morning on Sunday. I don't know why, I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect morning here. It's like sunny and like light temps. It's nothing too like we had a storm overnight, and now it's just like perfect. Sunny outside. It's like light wind. Perfect.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's jump all the way back to the year 1983 when you first started riding BMX at about 10 years old, right?
Yeah, 10 years old.
How did you get started?
Probably. I don't know, probably like many people, my brother was like 6 years older than me. And so he was like right from when BMX first came out. He raced and did all this stuff. And he was super good on his bike, and he like jumped, and he would always win his races. And obviously he kind of forced it on me. He's like, would always showing me his like BMX action magazines and whatever. And so I kind of knew about it at that point, and I kind of did it. I followed along with him, and kind of eventually, yeah, like so we did it. He did it. He forced me to do it eventually.
That's awesome. There's been quite a few people on the show that have said a similar thing, right? Like that their older brother got them into it, and it's pretty crazy to see like how far those people have come. I wonder if like, you know, when you guys were kids, if he ever thought that it would go that far, you know?
No, I bet he did, because it was weird, because right after, like, I probably was on a bike, probably 81 through whatever, 'cause I remember seeing, like Tinker Juarez on the cover of, like, Bicycle Motocross Action, like, coming out of the skate park, and that issue was, like, 79, and so he always showed me prior, but I think I was so little that I couldn't do anything, right? Like, the bikes were never really designed for people my size. I remember being like, oh, I wish I was bigger. And he was 16, so he could throw the bike around. And so I couldn't do it, but obviously I had someone to look up to. I guess it's like anything. If you have someone who's doing it at a bigger level, you will grow to that level.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So what was BMX like all those years ago?
Oh, man. Like, obviously there was no ramps, no anything but racing. Like, we had probably four tracks, like, in our area. There's probably four tracks that I could think of, and probably more. But, like, I only raced 3 times, and I only raced, like, the one track where my brother went to, like, the Niagara Falls one. And then there's a town south of us called Hamburg, and there's, we have, like, an Erie County fair that happens every year, and they had a track there. So I would always go watch him, and I probably always wanted to do it, but I think I more wanted to hit the jump. So again, like I was saying, like my brother got me into it, and it was just me and him and his friend. And so what's weird is like, I don't think I had the starting point for me at that point. I think the next year because I was in 5th grade, and the next year I moved into 6th grade into our middle school, which was like the funnel for a bunch of different elementary schools. And when I got to 6th grade, I realized there was like all these kids my age who rode. it was like probably like 50 kids stoked on BMX. Everyone had their lockers with like magazine photos cut out and put in there, and I just remember being like, oh, I found my people. And that's kind of when it really accelerated for me, when I knew there was people my age. Because my brother, like, he started driving and eventually like quit. And so, yeah, so we raced and like hit, like, I just remember we raced, or he raced and I raced a little bit, or we would like hit like dirt jumps. And usually the dirt jumps consist of like the pile of dirt next to a baseball field that they use for like extra dirt. And so, but wasn't anything. It was so basic and rudimentary. So,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy
yeah.
to think that like you have been there since almost the beginning of BMX, like it's been almost 40 years of riding BMX, and that's like
Yeah.
so cool to me, like I was out yesterday at my buddy Ryan. He has dirt jumps in his backyard, like literally lives in the middle of the city, has this weird lot where he's able to basically build dirt jumps in this little forest at like in his backyard, like it's fully his. But
That's
anyways,
awesome.
we went over there and it was my buddy's 40th birthday, and there was a guy there who was in his 60s, like, BMX racer, jumping these jumps and like cleared the whole line, did everything. And that is like, I so want to be, able to do this when I'm 60, and I'm only 24 now. So like I got a long time to go, but I definitely,
Yeah, imagine what riding's gonna look like when you're 60.
yeah, I know it's going to be
Awesome.
kind of crazy, eh? Like even the changes that I've seen in BMX in the last like 10 years have been crazy. Like I can't even imagine the stuff that you've seen in the last 40 years like come and go.
I was gonna say, like, the first trick I remember wanting to learn. So in my driveway, there was a photo I posted on my Instagram of me doing like a curb endo against this. We had this like little cement divider block thing in my driveway. I remember learning curb endo. So the real trick was doing the curb endo and then coming back on your back wheel and like pogoing.
Yeah.
That was like the trick. That was like, and it was funny thinking about, and I was going to mention it a little bit ago in my answer. I was like, man, that was a trick then. And obviously, pogoing is obviously no one does it anymore. And it was weird to think that was the thing. Or even like, it was cool because back in the day, there was all these like crazy how-tos in the magazine from like, I remember like the Switzerland squeaker was a trick. And it's basically, you got to reduce the squeaker. But it's basically like you do an endo, and obviously you do the brake, but you put your front, one of your feet on the tire, and then you like let go of the brake, and you squeak the wheel, and you push the wheel so you roll backwards for a little bit. But it's like the early scuffing, in a sense. Or even like Miami hoppers. Like those are like weird old ass tricks that like you need to be old to do it. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, I always see clips of like, older dudes doing them, or even just photos, and it just always blows my mind. And it's so crazy to see that like all these years later, like BMX has changed, and sometimes for the better, but like a lot of times when it comes to those old tricks, like those seem so difficult to modern day riders.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, like you know what a Miami hopper is? Am I
Yep.
just totally okay? Like I couldn't imagine doing a Miami hopper with pegs on, like 4 pegs on.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's even really doable. Like I don't think it would be the
Yeah, I
same.
don't. Yeah, because I don't think people really rode 4 pegs back then, or they would. If they did have 4 pegs, it was like the fork standers that were higher up that would fold down.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like pegs used to be on the side of the forks too, right? And like it's just so crazy
Yeah.
to see how much bikes have changed. I actually just pulled up that photo of the curb endo there in your driveway. That is so cool.
It's
Like,
so awesome. It's
yeah,
so my mom in the back.
you're so small. Like that bike is huge.
Oh yeah, it's so big, so
Yeah,
big.
that's awesome. But yeah, like even like there's some tricks that just seem so underrated. And one of them that I was trying a couple weeks ago before I don't know if I broke my ankle, but I have not been able to walk all week. Anyways,
Oh, oh.
um Yeah, it was a flat ground decade. So I just put front brakes on, and I've got like a one lever mod with the Primo Pervert. So I run both
Okay.
front and rear, and I've been wanting to learn flat ground decades, and I've been getting so close. And it's just like I was trying them, and I broke it out in front of these younger kids that are like dudes in town, and they were so blown away. They had never really seen that trick, and I was like, that's not even an old trick. Like Miami hoppers are old. Like some of the other tricks like that, those have been around forever. Like I know flat ground decades have been around, but I just feel like, people still do them.
Yeah, it's a weird. I remember when we learned them. Like I think so. From sixth to like eighth grade is when all those riders that I was mentioning, like rode, and obviously they petered off by eighth grade. But I remember like there was one dude that was super good. He's like the dude in the neighborhood that was just like the natural. And you were
Yeah.
like, oh, I want to be a good. His name was John Matheson. We called him Red, and he had style. He had like a Hutch Trickstar that he did. The Trickstars had these tiny little fork pegs. He put like extenders on them, so he had like these giant pegs, especially for the time on his bike. But he was like the first to do like whiplashes and decades and all that stuff. But like a decade is like you think of the lineage of it, right? Is like what it was a boomerang first, and they're like, well, can we do it up in the air? I don't know exactly who did it first, but I remember like I could jump over the bike and not land on the frame, and then eventually I got to the frame, but I spent like I'd forever trying to do it. Right, I could never. How close did you get?
I've been getting really close. Like the one attempt, I literally got all the way around and landed like, with my ass on the seat. And that was like, it was so close, but I have been, trying them and I get right over the bike. And then if you're not in the right spot, like if you miss your footing, you'll go right to the frame on your ribs. And like, I've done that a couple times. So
Yeah, it's weird because when we learned them, it was like there was platforms in the frame,
yeah.
right? And so now with just the single top tube, it gets a little. I think it's harder for sure. It's like harder, hurt your foot a little more, and like landing, you don't get that leverage.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah, I still
and
see.
then you'd slip too. We used to put grip tape there too.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have seen that, I remember when I first got started in BMX riding, I don't remember what pedals I had, but they were like plastic pedals that I'd really like my feet kept slipping off, so I took like strips of grip tape and put them on top of the pedal and like
Yeah,
I remember being such a pain because like it was so hard to sit there and do it and make it like look nice, and it worked, but like I ended up just getting new pedals like a month later anyways. But it was just one of those times where like when I first started, I wasn't really able to afford much, so I just kind of had to work with what I had, right?
yeah. No, that's the way to do it, right? Like you kind of modify, but I think that was the nature, especially early on with the early bikes. Is like if you had an idea, you just made it, or you're like, well, because there was no big companies, and it was all like kind of like small backyard or garage companies, right? And people were like, I think I could do this better. I think I could do this better, and that literally is carried continuously up until probably today, of course. But that idea of like, well, I could just modify it. Why don't I just put grip tape, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. I
So,
think that's one of the coolest things about BMX.
oh yeah, I love BMX. I think it's great just because you can do anything with it, right? Like it's just so cool. I've always found like my dad's a skater, so like with skateboarding, I love skateboarding as well. I'm just not a skater at all. Like I can barely do an ollie. But one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that like I loved more about BMX than skating is the fact that there's only so much you can do in skateboarding where it comes to like the terrain that you're in. Like you can't ride dirt jumps on a skateboard. You can't do like big gaps into grass or anything like that. And that's kind of one of those things where I'm like, I know that it's kind of frowned upon to do big gaps into grass or any like of those things, but I think like you're on a bike, like you should try and utilize everything because you can, like
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, that's just my opinion on it, but
I mean, you do see people skating on dirt jumps. Obviously, the dirt, they have to have bigger wheels.
yeah, I've seen it,
but
but
it's not like it's a common everyday thing.
yeah.
It's always like super novel. Or even like, I remember us doing like grass rides, like on skateboards,
Yeah.
like just skating across long grass patches and stuff. It's pretty funny. But
Yeah.
you're right though. Like, I mean, who's not going to deny a handrail over, like a bunny hop over a handrail into a downhill grass?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that is like one of the purest joys of BMX.
Yeah, exactly. So a question I had for you is, since you've been riding BMX for, 37 years at this point, do you remember when Odyssey first came out as a brand?
Yeah, I mean, I think the gyro put them on. The gyro put them on the map, right? But
Yeah.
I think obviously they were around before the gyro. There was they definitely had some wild bars, or the wild products, like the flying wedge bars, whatever they were. They were like knee savers, but like extra knee savers.
Yeah.
But then they had what was the set? I always forget the name. It was so in the 80s, you needed like your bar end. The end of your bar is to touch the seat, so you could do like side glides and all these like balance tricks, right?
Right.
And so they had it's the leading edge seat, and it had the button where you push the button, and then the seat would have like a boner or something. Like it would just it would have a little piece that would come out that would extend the seat. So then it was really, and everyone was just trying stuff, right? And then it had a replaceable, because seat grinders were a thing, like the bike upside down, and you lean back onto the back wheel, and you could pedal, and you could grind your seat, right? That was a trick.
Oh, yeah.
But so the leading edge had the extender and the replaceable piece on the seat, right? And I remember getting the leading edge and being like, all right, this is awesome. I could do all these balance tricks, right? I don't have to worry. But then every time you hit a bump or something, the boner would pop out. It would always trigger, and you're like, oh, this is annoying. You're like, do I really need this?
Oh, that's hilarious. That's such a cool thing.
Right.
You don't see innovative like that, I guess. And I mean, there's probably a reason for it, but that's just so cool, I guarantee that there's so many people that have no idea that was a thing.
Yeah, I think again, there wasn't coolness in BMX, right? Like people wore jerseys, these crazy neon colors. It wasn't really style. It was just it's open source. We're just going to try anything,
Yeah, and
so
I love
every brand had something. Like some brands, I think Schwinn had the Schwinn Yossi, which was a seat grinder seat, but it had a wheel.
Right.
And so you could do a seat grinder without ruining your seat. I don't know, whoever did one. I don't know anyone who's ever done one, except for no one in my neighborhood did it. We're like, I'm not ruining my seat.
Yeah. BMX has had so many crazy things. I was watching this video a couple weeks ago, and it's the dudes with the side hack bikes, and this guy literally goes around a bowl corner, and the dude on the side hack jumps out of the bowl over the fence. It's just so crazy. We never see that anymore. I'm I'm finding a bunch of parts right now to build a side hack, because I think that would be such a cool thing for a BMX jam at a skate park here. Best trick on the side hack, you have to have two people. It would make so many people whoa, what? Nobody would have any idea what to do. I think that'd be really rad.
Did you ever see the one that Jim Bauer did at Odyssey? The side hack with the Sunday frame?
I don't think so, but I'll take a look right now. I'll see if I can look it up.
Look for that one, because Jim Bauer, and I think Rooftop tried to flip it.
Oh my
into
god!
The foam at Woodward West, and it's because Odyssey. One of the beautiful things about Odyssey, circa 1998 and on, was the fact that it was this. I guess in the sense of 80s Odyssey was progressive, but it was hokey, right? But it kind of matched the times. But then 2000 Odyssey was super progressive, but matched the style, and you had the ability. You had because for 3 air bikes in a row, Jim Bauer and company would come up with these amazing kind of retro, right, or goofy in a weird way. They did the side hack bike, and then the next year they did the tandem BMX bike. So these are all BMX bikes, but so side hack BMX, tandem BMX, and they did the tall BMX.
Yeah.
And it was all like with Sunday frames, whatever, and just kind of like, just this like, BMX is fun, right? That's all it's supposed to be. So instead of like serious tricks every day, it's just like, oh, here's something funny to do, like with your buddies, like a side hack. And it was a goof kind of one-off thing, of course, but it was like, who wouldn't try to ride this and jump their friend over a fence in a bowl? Like,
oh yeah, yeah, that is like so crazy, you know. I'm trying to find it, but I can't seem to find it on Google. I'll have to. I'll look that up later though, and I'll throw it on the Instagram.
Yeah,
that is like
because they made them like Sunday didn't make it, but there's this dude named Gray Boy who's like DJ guy that was trying to do. I swear they went through Walmart, and I forgot the brand name. They made side hacks for a short period, but the problem with the side hack is it's just hard to fit anywhere.
Yeah, I was even thinking about that. I'm like, where am I going to store it after I use it at the gym? I'm like, I guess like I don't want to leave it outside. I have a pretty small apartment. Like, I don't really have space, but I don't know. Maybe it'll sit in the office and somebody can sit on it while we do a podcast.
Yeah, right?
Awesome. Oh, man. Yeah, something that I've loved about Sunday is that they did like the... you guys had the tandem bike ad where like everybody is on the bike. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was the Odyssey. That was
Odyssey,
Odyssey
sorry.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really cool one. And you were talking about the tall bikes. I remember a clip, and I talked to Nyquist about this when him and Escamilla were at Woodward, and they were like jumping these like tall bikes, and Ryan totally tried to jump the mega ramp on it. I'm like, that has got to be the craziest thing ever. Yeah, there's a clip of it out there. I'm like, it's so crazy to me that they basically just welded like a small, like, you know, commuter bike frame with a BMX frame on top of it, and then this guy's trying to jump the mega ramp on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he totally did not make it. He cased on the way in and like fell off the bike, but like that's the thing.
Did he fall forward or backwards?
I think he fell like backwards. He was fine, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, what is your plan? Because it didn't have brakes either. I'm like, so what is your plan if you actually jump the whole thing? Like, are you going to hit the quarter? Like, oh my God, it's so wild.
Because we used the 24 for the bottom.
Yeah.
Right? But it's still, you could just loop out that bike so easy. It was so wild. It was fun. It was fun to try stuff on it, right? Bunny hop and whatever, but it looped out so easy. I could not imagine hitting Mega Ramp.
Yeah, that'd be so wild. I don't know if you know this guy at all, but he's a YouTube creator by the name of Colin Furs. And Colin actually used to ride BMX, and basically he's just an inventor. Like, he builds the craziest stuff. Like life-size TIE fighters and all this stuff, like really crazy. But he actually built a huge tall bike, like a 20-foot tall like bike, and then rode around on it. Like, no helmet, just riding down the street. He's like literally seeing rooftops of buildings. I'll have to try and pull that up, but like, it is just the craziest thing. Yeah.
I gotta look for that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'll try and remember to send you a link to that.
I couldn't. How did he get up to it? Did he probably have a ladder, or did he?
I think they had a ladder for him, or he had welded like a ladder onto the back of it, basically, I think.
I guess, man, that's wild. Just because for ours, you had to kind of like put a foot on a pedal and you had to kind of kickstart a little bit just to kind of get going, and then hopefully you got up. And if you didn't, then you were like, oh.
He said it like. He set it next to a building and then like crawled up it. And then when he got on top, like had a hand on the building and then started pedaling. And then like he rode out in the middle of the street, like with no way of getting down, essentially. Like, you have to make it. It was just the craziest thing.
That's wild, man. I could not. That's awesome.
That's the thing. Like, this guy builds the most ridiculous stuff. And like half the time I'm like, dude, this guy is 100% gonna end up like getting super hurt, but he just never does. Like, it's so weird to me.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out. I gotta find this.
Yeah, he used to be a BMX rider, and like he does these live streams on his Instagram sometimes, and for like his 10 million subscriber thing, he asked everybody like, "Hey, ask me a question." So I instantly was like, when did you get into BMX and all this stuff? Started trying to like get him to answer, and he basically said that he doesn't ride anymore. But I'm like, that is so cool that he used to be a BMX rider as well. I think it's like
how old is he, and how long ago did he ride? Did he say?
he didn't say either of those, but I think he's like in his 30s, and I don't think he was like a pro or anything. I think he's just really into BMX, and he's from the UK, so
okay,
yeah, you should.
Tight scene. I wonder if like part of it's like BMXers have that like that bucket, like let's just do it, right? Like I don't know what's gonna happen, but let's just do it.
Yeah, it's 100% that. Like,
yeah,
one of his first videos that ended up being super like huge, and this is like when YouTube first started. He had taken a ton of pallets, like literally the amount of pallets that they take to Swamp Fest, and built a giant like wall of death circle where like you're literally up 90 degrees on the wall, like big curve wall essentially. And he's doing that on like mopeds and stuff, and he talks about it in there. He's like, when you do like a wall ride on a bike, you put all of your weight into the like tires. You can't go at it like on an angle. It was really interesting. Like, it's really cool to see how far he came, but like it sucks that he doesn't ride anymore. But what do you do, right?
I think it's those roots that helps. Because I know there's a bunch of BMX or former BMXers that have gone on to other, like other great. Obviously, like Spike Jones is probably the most famous BMXer who's gone on to other things.
Oh,
I wish he would still kind of talk to his roots, but there's a ton of people that have either have BMX in their blood, or BMX has the principles and the things they've learned from BMX have kind of guided their paths, or almost created their path, or created their mindset that allows them to go in whatever direction. Because obviously riding BMX and potentially bleeding every day is it's not I guess that dude being 60, that works, but I don't know. It's funny.
Yeah, exactly. And, just some other riders that have went on to do pretty great things. Like, Jay Miron just had his documentary come out, like the quick one that Stu made. And that was really, really cool. Like, I've been trying to tell all the younger kids around here to like, not look so much at BMX like what it is today, and try and look back as well. Cause like some of the stuff that Jay was doing is seriously like some of the craziest stuff ever done, and like it still holds up to this day.
Oh, yeah.
There's a clip of him doing like it's a bank to wall ride with a rail right next to it, and it's like an infamous clip. And like I have never really
one
seen
in Seattle where he goes to wall ride to rail.
Yeah, and like you never see that.
Yeah.
That's something that like you would have a hard time finding that today, unless it's from like one of the top 1% BMX riders in the world right now.
Yeah, Jay, like seriously, like I remember going to Woodward in 1989 for the two-hip King of Vert and Meet the Street contest, and he was there. I think it was either his first pro contest or something like that. And I remember like, I think what's funny? I think he asked me for a wrench. He's like, because his bars moved or something like that. But I have to have I'm probably a little bit younger than him, but still, I didn't have anything. But I just remember at that moment, like, whoa, all right. And then just kind of follow, just to watch him, like, obviously blossom and just become who he was. And like Jay, like, man, he always, this is what the riders that I love the most always surprise you, right? You're like, they're like, you can't predict what they're going to do, right? They're always going to have something special, or they're going to do something big, like, or like one of my biggest influences was Kevin Jones, like Flatlander. I grew up flatlanding because I grew up in Cheektowaga, New York. There's not one handrail. There is one now, but there wasn't when I was a kid. And so it was ramps or flatland. And Kevin Jones was like, and flatland in general is uber, just so progressive. And you were always you sort of judge the rider on whether they had something new each time, like whether they were progressing or not. And like Jay rode Flatland too, and because he was in the Dorkin videos, and so his stuff would be always progressive and always burly, and you're like, man, this dude's the best. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's honestly, I love seeing like Canadian talent like that, as like a proud Canadian BMX rider. There's so many names that like have come out of Canada in the last, even 20 years that have been unreal. Like another big one, Dave Asato, obviously, like front brake master. Yeah, just so many other ones. Yeah. Like Drew Bazanzin, Mike Gray, like even some of the dudes that are around today, and like they're still, absolutely killing it. It's really cool to see. I love that Canadian BMX has really like started to kind of not blossom because it has been there for a while, but you're starting to see more and more people come out of Canada. Whereas like I've always felt that BMX has been something that was so big in the States, right? It's so widely covered in the States. Like for the most part, there's really no Canadian BMX like media outlets. Like other than, I run my website and I basically just do local BMX there. And then like the Northern Embassy was like a Canadian one. And there's a couple other little ones, but like there's nothing like, I don't know. I just felt like Ride BMX and all those big things were always so like in the States, I guess. I don't know why I think that, but like there's definitely Canadian stuff in there because there's like I have a magazine on my desk here that the cover is actually at a park in Toronto. I'll show that to the camera, but yeah, like just so cool. But anyways, let's move on to your pro career. So back in 1997, you got third place at a Stunt Boys Vert contest in Providence, Rhode Island. Would you be able to tell us some of the stories about that weekend in March?
Oh, man. All right. So I obviously grew up in the 80s and vert was a thing. And like obviously watching all the BS contests in the 90s and vert was a thing. And in like 96, we had our first skate park in the area and it had a vert ramp. It was 10 foot. So I was riding a lot of vert because I'm still trying to emulate these like dreams of being a vert rider and stuff. Right. And, the contest was, I rode all winter and rode vert all winter and I was feeling good. And so probably the first contest, I don't know that year, but was in Providence. So myself and the skate park owner go out and I was like, all right, I'm going to ride vert and whatever. I don't know if I didn't want to ride street. I don't know exactly what happened, but so really like the contest itself was like the vert part wasn't like anything epic. Like I remember like switching bars right before and the bars are weird and I just didn't understand bar dimensions at the time. And so trying to ride vert with different bars that are weird, like that was a big mistake. I don't know if there's anybody else I knew in the contest, but I just remember like cool ass weekend because it was probably my first trip. We went to Boston as well and rode ZT Maximus skate park. And always saw that in the magazines and in skate videos and wanted to ride that. So rode that and then, went to Providence and watched like obviously probably the first time. Yeah, first big contest where I got to see like, all the people in action. And I actually don't even think we stayed. I think we had such a short window that I would argue that we didn't see much. I just rode vert, probably crashed and then somehow got third and then left. I think we didn't have a short time. So it was more fun going to see Boston and going to ZT Maximus, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so wild. Like, even just thinking about the way that bar dimensions are today, like, everything's changed so much since then. Like, even looking back, like, 15 years, bars were so small. And, like, today, everybody's got 10-inch bars. I feel so weird with, like, 8 3/4 bars. Like, and even those are pretty tall compared to back then.
Yeah. I know it's also because kind of like in 2010, I thought the upsweep was going up on bars, right?
Yeah.
But then, like Charlie Crumbush is a local guy here, and he was telling me how like the upsweep has gone down because everyone's bars have gone forward. So it kind of levels it out. And I don't think I would put my bars, like I ride the 24 and like it works for me. I don't need my bars forward. But it was interesting kind of seeing how like it sort of like reflects the time in a sense. Cause I rode those Castillo bars, which were like probably one of the first, like maybe not the first, but like it was a burly modern bar. It was just heavier and it was flatter. And I remember like I was probably riding Peregrine Q bars and they had like big upsweep on them. Who knows? They're all probably bent too. Who knows? But yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, the bars have gone like way, way up.
Yeah. All right. So I just want to say thanks everybody for joining us live right now. We got quite a few people in the chat. And Montana Ricky's actually here, and he's got a question for you. Can you please tell me a rail trick you were working on but didn't get perfected? P.S. You're the best, dude.
Thanks, man. I always wanted to do like kickflip pedal ice. I remember trying it like 2001. I remember trying it at like the La Rev in Toronto, like, and that was close, but I think I remember I was getting twisted or like. And like in the parts video, kickflip crooked, like I never did it. And even anything else, there's gotta be something else. Probably like over lucky down a rail or something like that. But yeah, probably the kickflip ice. I've always wanted that. I could do it like on boxes and stuff, but I never could do it like on a round rail.
Yeah, that's so wild. You never really see like too many crazy grind combos like that. Like there's definitely some people that are doing them, but I find that those dudes are doing them so low to the ground now. And like looking at some of the stuff that you've done is like so cool, you know? Like I hate to be the old guy to be like, oh, mid school was better, but like some of the clips that I have seen from like, you know, the mid school era of BMX have been absolutely insane. Like there's just even like the park contest back then, the way that everything was run was way different. Like now it's really spin to win, you know, and like it's kind of, it is what it is. And like it's kind of went down this path of being, you know, doing more difficult tricks rather than stylish and trying to like really use the course to your advantage. And like I'm not saying that people don't nowadays, but I don't know, I definitely feel the same way, that mid school is just kind of, I don't know, it seems cooler.
I think like this is such a tech period, like stuff that guys do on really short ledges. Like it's so tech that a high ledge, you would never be able to figure it out. But I bet you in a few years, you're going to get some rider come along and do it all on big stuff and be like, okay, we can't do it on short stuff anymore. You know, and also like maybe like short stuff is just more prevalent. Like all like low, like 12-inch stuff is like just more available and not a skate stop. So, and now people could figure these tricks out on something low. It's like sort of like maybe learning tricks at a skate park rail and then take them to a bigger rail.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I don't know. Yeah, so maybe in a few years, people will be like hauling ass doing backwards lines on big rails or on bigger ledges.
Yeah, I think you've got a point there with like all it really takes is just one guy that's like able to do it, you know? Like once one guy does it, everybody else is going to have to start doing it cuz you know, you got to keep up. You got to like BMX is a friendly competition most of the time. Like, you know, we're all stoked for each other, but like at the same time, well, you want to be at the same like pace as that person, right? Like you want to be able to like hold up the same that they can, I guess.
It's like open source, right? It's the idea that like nobody controls it, but we all contribute to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And once one person does it, you're like, oh, okay, it's possible. Once people know it's possible, or whether it's knowing it's possible or they're trying to compete or keep up, then you know the floodgates open.
Yeah, a great example of that is Daniel Dares doing the cash roll, and then Brett Banasewicz doing it like 100 times better. Like just because you know Daniel showed that it was possible, but Brett was like able to just do it with such ease before his crash, and like still to this day, like it's hard to make that trick look really good, but Brett was able to make it look unreal.
Yeah, there's like a difference between the person that invents it and like a person that invents it and the person that popularizes it. sometimes it's the same person, but it's not often.
Can you think of
Like
anybody
people
that?
like
Sorry.
I would talk about like Corey and Nathan doing the lucky grinds. Like I think those guys really took Corey Martinez and Nathan Williams. Those guys did lucky grinds when they did lucky 180s. And they had the plastic pedals at that point. Those guys were like really open the floodgates with that trick. Like doing it on ledges and that too. Like once that happened, because the trick was like Lucky did it and I did it and probably other people did it, but we had the limitations of metal pedals and not the most ideal places to do it. But once the plastic was out and then doing it on straight up ledges, then people were able to like, oh, I could do that. And doing the Lucky 180 was like the coolest thing. I was like, I never saw that. And those guys took it, did it, and then it opened the floodgates for everyone else to do it. That was pretty awesome.
Hell yeah. So Ricky actually just said in the chat, Road Fools, you made people drop their jaw. So I would love to talk about Road Fools for a little bit. If anybody's listened to the show before, they know that I love Road Fools, and that was like one of my favorite things in BMX. So in 2001, you were part of Road Fools 7, that trip. What was your favorite moment from that trip?
I think go to Kona. Honestly, the Kona pool, like I think overall it was the idea of going to new places and seeing like just like, oh my God, a new city. What is here? What is the spot I've always dreamt of, and is it here? And to search and going looking. I love that, but I think going I was 27 on Road Fools 7. And I had that kind of foot in the path of like old school skate parks. So to go to Kona, which is the oldest skate park that's still remaining in the country, right? And like to go there to have like this modern crew go to like this old place, I think, and that was, to me, it was really interesting. But I think riding a pool, I love that, like old school, like it was like a really backyard pool. And for me, that was the coolest thing, just because I didn't have that growing up. We had like city pools, and we never had backyard pools here. So it was a chance to just go to all these places, and experience things I've always wanted to ride, but never had a chance because I didn't travel as much as I was hoping.
Now, Road Fools 7, this is like probably the craziest moment in BMX for me, was a Van Homan tail whipping the like the big gap. So what was that like to see that in person, and like what were you thinking when he went and tried that?
You know what? I think obviously Van Homan. So there's and I've not that I've expected that, but you were like, oh, this dude, this is awesome. Like he's already like, and he already set the precedent, right? Like being in Atlanta, like the first day, like I even say in the video, like straight out of the bus, he does that gap to manual down thing. And I was like, okay. And then for him, and then the quote is like, and he just learned to do tail whips too, right? And he's like, well, I could jump the gap and I could do tail whips. So like that logic makes sense to me, right? It's just that little bit of, well, in this case, the big unknown of jumping the snake line. But I think it's just this idea of like, what the beautiful thing about Road Fools was that you got such a mix of talent together, and they feed off each other, right? Like Wessel was jumping at the top of that roof, and then they were all jumping the big hip into it, and so where Van jumped the snake run was kind of over to the right. And so he kind of already been jumping that. So he already knew the transition. And so when he jumped it, he was like, all right. And it's Van Homan, right? So,
yeah.
There's like, oh man, I really got to step it up. These little kickflips aren't going to do it.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm playing that clip on stream right now from Road Fools 7 there. It's so insane. Like I can't even think of pretty much anybody that has ever jumped that gap other than Van Homan, like tail whipping it. And I think it's just the fact that like he tail whipped it. Like, what is anybody going to do that's, better on that? Like, it's kind of difficult to even go about it.
Yeah, I remember later that year there was the CFB at Kona, and someone had jumped it for in their run or something like that, and it was just like, I don't know, man. I don't think he even it's already claimed. I don't know who did it, but it was like he tail whipped it. I don't know what else you're gonna do to make it better.
Yeah, pretty much at that point you can't. Yeah, I don't know. The whip on it is just such a big moment in BMX, I think.
Yeah, no, it'll probably forever haunt Van Homan to this day. People probably come up to him and well, I could tail whip and I could do the gap. People probably say that to him all the time.
Dude, he can't do any gap anymore without hearing that he has to tail whip it after.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man! So you were also on Road Fools 9 a few years later. If you had to choose between 7 and 9, what would be your favorite out of the two, and why?
I would say Road Fools 7. And partially because California. I never really had luck with California, but Road Fools 7 had like a foot in the original. I wouldn't say cast of Road Fools, but it had a foot in those members from the original, 1 through 6, right? Like Frymouth was there, and I would kind of put ends in there, and then Osato was there, and Kimbler, and just this idea of especially even the bigger '90s riders. Obviously, those guys go later on, but it was because it was Heaton, Tizio, and myself who were all the kind of the new guys, and we kind of let into this sort of club of seasoned veterans at that point for a lot of the riders, because they've been in X Games and all that stuff, and so it was cool to kind of I'm part historian. I love history in a sense, and BMX included. So sort of to be privy and let into that group of people is pretty awesome. Where 9 didn't quite have that. It had obviously Mira and Moliterno and Greg Walsh and then it was just such a mix, such a kind of weird mix. Whereas Road Fools 7 was a kind of props, Tread magazine history crew. It was more connected to that, and so it was fun to kind of grow up and watch those things, and now sort of be a part of that.
Yeah.
So 7 is more like that for me.
For sure. Now, Road Fools 9, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a little bit of a controversy with you and Mira there, right? I can't remember exactly what happened, but I had read something online about it last night. Would you mind talking about that, or would you rather pass?
Yeah, because I think I've understand. I think for me, it was a misunderstanding of ride. I think we all ride differently, right? So I think Mira, his riding style, so basically what happened was myself, we were in San Luis Obispo at whatever the college is there. And I went with Dave, and I think Brian Wismorski was there, and then maybe Behringer, and maybe, I don't know, but we went out and it was a different style than I was used to, in the sense that Dave was just fire. He was an animal. He would fire out all these things that I was definitely afraid of, and because I would probably walk up to the thing and think about it. It'd be oh, okay, probably basically overthink everything. Where Dave would just fire it out, and it was wild to see. And I personally didn't think I should have probably been a little more or tried to understand that this is how Dave rides. And it wasn't him being competitive. It was just the way he rides. Maybe he is competitive. I don't know. But I definitely should have done it better. But it was interesting. Obviously, by the end of the video, which probably no one ever sees because it's the end of the video, right? I kind of came around to that idea of people ride differently, especially if you're in a contest, right? If you're a contest rider, you probably have to be able to fire at all times. And that was just a different style than my style. And so yeah, that was an interesting experience.
Yeah, it's such a I remember it was just so crazy to me reading about it last night, and everybody was making not a big deal about it, but it's on a site that literally like documents different like things within BMX history, right? So like it was
Hmm.
just funny to me that that was like even on there, because like I mean it is just a little misunderstanding, right? Like it's something that kind of happens as I don't know, I guess as you ride sometimes. Like I've seen it with my own crew where like we'll go out riding with another crew and they get kind of upset because the other crew is just like, you know, they're maybe better riders, or maybe they feel as if like it sounds really dumb but like threatened in a way, like even though it shouldn't
Hmm.
feel that way at all. Like I think when the camera's out and everything's filming and everybody's kind of like, you know, really the pressure's on, especially when you're trying to get a certain trick, like that's something that like I don't know, filming 2 full-length videos, I kind of realized that like at times people are going through quite a lot just to try and get a trick, and it's hard to explain it to anybody that doesn't ride BMX or skate, you know?
Yeah, I think for that, I remember like was pretty excited. I think it was like I was pretty excited because I remember like talking to Dave about it. I'm like, oh, I want to learn flares. I didn't do them at the time, and I was like, well, me or Dave could do them. Because I'm like, I mean, there are sort of like at that point, I think there was like two sides, right? At least I'll say I picked my side as sort of this like street side, this kind of underground. I don't know if underground's the right word, but like there was the street side, and then there was like this Greenville Pro Town X Games side, and I'm probably jealous, of course, because obviously they're making tons of money, and like you want the world to be like, oh, this is a good side of BMX too. This takes skill too, right? Like, but I remember with Nine, I was like, man, this is kind of cool. It's kind of sides coming together because like Wiz is fucking badass. Like Van was on the trip. I mean, well, Wiz is on the trip, but you kind of get this mix of sides together. And I remember talking to Dave, like, oh, I want to learn flares. And I think he did. He learned something that I like love to do. I forgot what it was, but I definitely, and it didn't work out. Like he didn't teach me flares, but like, I remember exactly what happened, but I never learned flares, but we went down, I went with the Shine. Do you remember Shine magazine?
Yep.
Video magazine?
Yeah.
So like we went down and Dave did an interview with Dave after it, and it was definitely more about like I did the interview, and it was definitely me like, oh shit, I misunderstood you, of course, but I did try flares in his warehouse. I blew my wheel, of course, because I still couldn't do it right, but whatever. But I was hoping it was just like kind of mixing. So I feel like I'm pretty open, but I definitely like ran my mouth and messed up there, but.
We all make mistakes, whatever, right?
Yeah.
There you go. So here's a good question for you. What makes Road Fools so different from trips that like a, you know, traditional BMX company will go on?
I think it's sort of like potluck, right? You just throw a bunch of people in they may know each other, right? But yeah, you just throw a bunch of people in and just see what happens. And then obviously you take them to a new city and see what happens. Where, I mean, that happens to a degree with a team, but all the riders kind of know each other. Obviously they're on a team, so hopefully they know each other. But I think Road Fools just had this, like, especially it was early on, there wasn't a lot of media, and it captured the dream of like, we're just going to get in the car and go. And I think there was a more spontaneousness to it. And originally, I remember like Road Fools sort of changing away from this, like, remember like in like 3 or 4 when like Chad DeGroot, they have Halloween at Chenga World, they all dress in costumes, and
Yeah.
like it shows the kind of riders' personalities. I mean, I love that because like otherwise it's just a straight riding video, which is cool, but I liked those personalities because like I still had this burning image now of Chad DeGroot in Chenga World and Lee Ransdell, right? But I think I think maybe like a rider video now, it's like a little bit serious. It's a lot serious, probably. It's probably been serious. I think Road Fools like the only thing that's ever been like a really good video with a really amazing rider that sort of tells a story.
Yeah, I would say so. You know, like when you look at Road Fools and like the way that everything was done, Something you mentioned there was that like it didn't just have riding, like it really showed the personality of the riders, and that is something that like props in general, they covered that so well. Like, all of their jams, like jam videos were shot differently. Like you've got Crandall on the microphone and like, just interviewing people quickly, like just stuff like that. It just shows like all the different parts of BMX, whether it be the riding or just the community and the people. Like, I think that's something that like is good to showcase because otherwise it's just the riding and that's fine. Like, at the end of the day, we're all in it for the riding, but I think showing the personalities and like really getting to know these pros, especially at a time when, Instagram wasn't a thing and like, many pros weren't like able to basically show themselves off other than in magazines, right? Or like maybe a team video. But even then was like, how often does that happen, right?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest like things I was not complaining internally to myself about was the idea that you like, what if you have like, what if a rider puts out like a super awesome video part, but then the rest of and maybe the other guys on the team don't try as hard, right? Or something along those lines, and it has to be in a DVD, and you have to wait years to do it, and like it's weird. I just remember even like when Instagram added video or pre-recorded video. Sunday was one of the first to really jump on it because I knew, like, I was controlling it, right? And I remember, like, the Garrett Burns curved wall ride in Atlanta we did an Atlanta vacation video, and it's like this crazy, I think he got cover shot. Yeah, he got cover of ride.
Yeah.
And it was just, like this insane. I remember just being floored about how high he went out of it and I filmed it, and it's buried at the end of like a 9-minute video. I was like, oh man, this is ridiculous. Like, why? Like, so I remember like pulling that clip exclusively out and putting it on Instagram, and but it's the idea of showing people's like personalities because you might get like going back to the props thing, like you might when you start to see a rider's personalities, another person watching will be like, oh, that's me, or that dude reminds me of my buddy. Like, it's kind of an interesting way it is sort of weird marketing in a way, but I don't know. I think it kind of helps expand the riders and make people like each other more.
Yeah, absolutely. So something that I was going to ask was, do you think that props could hold up today? Like if they were to do, a new Road Fools video or a new Mega Tour video, do you think it would be the same or is it just not possible anymore?
I don't know. I think it would have to be live and instantaneous. Like you'd have to follow it kind of like what we're doing now.
Yeah, I
don't know.
Somebody gave me this really good quote on the show once. And that was that vlogs are just the new Road Fools on a budget, And like, I guess it kind of makes sense, but like it doesn't, everything's different, obviously. Like, it's not, if all the vlogs were just short, like, Road Fools videos, I think certain people would love that, but others would hate it, Like, I think there's a big part of that. But I do think that because of the way that things are now and the fact that, like, everybody's attention span, most of my podcasts, people have to listen to them, and, like, watching them, they won't stick around for too long just because their attention span won't let them, right? Like, it's something that unfortunately it just kind of happens, but
yeah, I think it's partially. I wonder if you like thinking about the T1 video where they went around the world with that like the budget or whatever that plane ticket, and I imagine if like you were following a rider like a team now, and they're like, we're going here, and like it'd be kind of cool to like stay in tune for like 3 weeks. They're on a road trip and they're like, we're in this city, or imagine a year. Jeez, I can imagine traveling for a year. But yeah, I think it would have to just be live, personally. And there's a lot of people kind of doing that live stuff now. So it's kind of like it's not the only cook in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really good point. I do think it would have to be live and that people would have to like be able to not meet up, but know that you're in their city at the same time or like anything like that. That was something that like years ago, the Kink team and the Sunday team actually both came to Kitchener at one point. And I remember when the Sunday team came to Kitchener, where I live, and they came to the skate park when I was there. Pardon?
Did we go to backpedaling?
Yeah, you guys went to backpedaling, and I met Aaron Ross there. I met everybody there, I guess. I probably would have actually met you. But it was so crazy because, like, you know, my dad drove me out there that morning, and I was so excited to meet everybody. And I must have been, like, you know, 14 or 15 at the time, real young. And then I go to the skate park that night, and I end up like getting a flat right as you guys showed up, and I got, like, we were just about to leave, and I saw the Sunday van pull in, and, like, all these pros waved at us, and I was like, oh my God, like, they're coming to ride our skate park. And, like, it was just so crazy to me. I don't know why, but, like, that was one of my greatest experiences in BMX, was just, like, getting to see these pros absolutely destroy the park that we rode without even trying, you know, like, literally doing some of the best tricks that have ever been done there within the first, like, couple minutes of being there. I remember Aaron had, like, fucked up his foot the day before, and like, he was trying 360 whip into the bank, like, with, you know, a fucked up foot, like, just, like, literally a bunny hop 360 whip into this bank. I was like, what the hell, man? That was so crazy to me.
Yeah, that's Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that the park that, like, was it right next to, like, that? Is it a small, like, longer, like, rectangular park? It's, like, way more street.
Yeah, and it had a bowl there, and it was on an old trash dump. So, like, they had dirt
Trashmore,
jumps,
right?
Yeah, Trashmore, that's the one.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a fun day.
Yeah. Did you guys actually ride anything else that day?
I don't remember. Was that right after backpedaling then?
It would have been, like, a couple hours later. Like, it was that evening, but it was that night. Like, I remember you guys came out to backpedaling, and yeah, it was that night.
We probably went to, you know, we went to Ryder. We were staying at John at Ryder's place.
Yep.
And so we probably stayed there, and then I think we were on our way back. So then we went to, I don't think we went to the St. Catharines Park. We went to the Niagara Falls Park on the way home, because we were going back to Buffalo. Like, everyone flew in and out of Buffalo, and we had probably, I don't know, it might have been the last stop. And then we went to the Niagara Falls Park, and then we did like a sort of, it's like a weird meet and greet, but there was a kid here that was in one of the suburbs that was hit on a bike and killed, and he was riding the Aaron Ross, like, Orange Sunday. We found out about it during our, like, Atlanta vacation trip, and so we met up with, like, the family, because when it happened, we were all kind of, like, in touch with, like, the family just through, like, social media at the time. But, like, it was pretty wild, and so we met, like, they had a picnic, and we met their family and, like, all the people in the community, and, like, and they, like, they have there's a new skate park here. It's years old now, but they built a skate park in the kids' honor. So we kind of did all that stuff. I don't think we rode anywhere else.
Yeah, that's really touching that you guys actually did that, though. You know, like, it's really sad that happened, and it is, like, I don't know, I guess it's a little ironic that he was riding an Aaron Ross bike. That sounds really bad, but, like, yeah, I don't know.
A bright orange bike, and the driver was drunk, like, in the middle of the day.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
That's, yeah. One of my buddies got, he got hit by a tow truck, and, like, he was riding a bright orange, like, bike. He's got yellow pants on, like, literally the brightest thing on the street, and got run over by a tow truck, and, like, couldn't ride for, like, a year. He's, like, good to this day. Like, he can, you know, do everything, but it's just one of those things that, like, it's really unfortunate that people, you know, don't pay attention sometimes, but it's even worse that people think it's okay to get in their car and drive drunk. And, like, that fucking guy, if he's still around today, I 100% know that he probably feels like such a piece of shit, you know? And, like, I mean, he probably should. Like, I don't really have any, like, I don't know. I don't have any pity for him, I guess. Like, you fucking killed somebody, like, driving drunk. That's not very smart.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on from that, So I have a good question for you, and this is a trick that like not many people can do. And one of my buddies, Jeff, he does them really well, and that is the downside hand plant. How in the
Oh,
world?
okay.
How in the world did you learn these? And what's the learning curve like? Like I don't even know where to begin with this trick.
I would say a foam pit plus contest courage is the way I learned it. So Ruben Alcantara, he did like it was a continuation. Like it started with like Eric Steele in the UK and like John Taylor and Dennis Wingham and even Todd Lyons did like hand plants over rails. I don't know where it was pulled or whatever, but then Ruben had the Edney's video, like the first one, right, where he does the hand plant over a spine, and I remember coming back from the CSB in Florida in 2001, and we stopped at Woodward on the way back because we were going to the Toronto, the La Rev contest, right? It was the precursor to Metro Jam in Toronto.
Yep.
And so we were at Woodward, and it was just us, and I remember just dorking around, like, let me see, right? Let's like, all right, let me just see how it works, right? And I learned, like, oh, I think you could do this 180. I never pulled one there. But when I went to Toronto, I was like, all right, let's, it's the idea of like, hopefully if you're going to steal a trick, you better add to it, right? It's open source. So I think I'm like, fuck, I think someone else did the hand plant over a spine. They had an ad and I was like, okay, well, someone already did it. So you can kind of go and do it. But adding the 180 was like, hey, I'm contributing. I'm not fully stealing. I'm contributing. So when I learned, when I did the 180, it was in the contest, right? So I did the 180, hand plant 180 over the spine pretty right away. But I grew up skateboarding too, right? And I could do hand plants sort of on a skateboard, and I saw the Eric Steele photos of him doing them, and I was like, all right, well, people have done it, right? Or at least tried it or survived it anyway. And I remember like in that contest, like, all right, I did the 180 over, might as well, there's time left, I might as well just try it. And like with any trick, with anything you're about to attempt, there's sort of like a little bit of unknown. You're like, well, what's going to happen? Well, I could do like Van, right? I could tail whip and I could jump the gap, so I should be able to tail whip the gap. So in his head, there was only a little bit of an unknown. And so I was like, well, let's just give it a try. You got the contest crowd screaming. And so I tried it and was like, oh my God, this is way easier than I thought. And if you watch, like in that clip, like you could see me like leaning way back when I do it. And like I rotate my hand on the grip and lean back to the side I'm going to do it. And you don't really pull, and you just use the arm that's holding the grip. That was the first one I ever really did on coping. I'm watching it now, and like,
yeah,
you see me leaning back a lot, and like, to me, that's like the secret is learning to lean back and you rotate your hand and just using the strength of your arm that's holding the grip to pull the bike underneath you. Like to get it on coping is like one of the hardest things, I think. And to me, that was like the ultimate goal. Like that one there is like, that's it. Like I would love to have stalled it.
Yeah.
It would be great to old skateboard style, just hold it. But I couldn't do that. But just getting like the one from Texas Toast, you can see my hand is like, my thumb is on the deck. And
yeah.
That's like, okay, that's as far as I can, that's where I want.
That clip like blows my mind. And the Texas Toast one, you actually land like, or you're in it, like you almost like stall out, like you're actually kind of in it there for quite a while. When you think about like doing a downside hand plant on a bike like that, most people basically just touch and then go, but you're like fully on there holding yourself up for at least a like half second,
I would say it's not as long as I was hoping it would be.
Yeah.
The idea, I wish you could just like again, old school, just like if you can get your arms straight, because I think my arm's out over the coping or out over the ramp.
Right.
If I could just kind of get straight up and down on the ramp or on the coping above the deck, like that would be like, the dream was to just be able to hold it for like, just legitimately like hold it and then be like, oh. That would be awesome. I think there's that's very continuous motion, but the dream would have been like old school skate style and just be able to hold it and just stall. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that is my dream trick, and like I feel like a bitch because I've never even tried it because it's so like difficult to even get into it by the looks of it.
Have you tried hand plants over spines or anything?
No, I haven't really. It's really weird, but Canada doesn't have, or at least where I live, we don't have very many spines. Like, and all of them, and this is like, there's definitely some. Like, there's a park that I used to work at, and they just rebuilt it, and they've got a good setup, like, into a foam pit where you could probably learn it. Like, I just don't even know how to. I feel like you have to almost learn it into foam, and then like you've got to start out with the spine ones. I think I really want to learn the downside ones on like vert walls and quarter pipes. That's like dream trick right there.
Yeah, I would say there's just a little bit of it's almost like over the spine. It's almost like a scrub, right? Like when you scrub a jump, you kind of do this like I would do it with my left hand. So you just kind of turn to the left, and then you bring the bike back to the right, and then you just lean over and put your hand down. Like if you watch like the cruiser one, like in that thing, you can see like I kind of really just air over the spine and dab with my hand.
Yeah.
And so you could do it. You could totally do it. I think it's just a matter of like do the ones over the spine. If you can get to that foam pit, I guarantee you'll do it in 15 minutes.
Alrighty.
It's a little weird, but but you could do it.
I'm going to make it happen, and not because I think I can, because Jim Cielencki thinks I can. We're going to make this happen at some point.
I think anybody out there could do it, so.
Hell yeah. We were just trying to shoot a photo of my buddy the other day doing a downside hand plant over like this like hip thing.
Is it John Alden, is it?
No, it's just a buddy of mine, like a random local kid that I've been riding with. Yeah, he learned
cool.
Here's the thing though. We were trying to get it and he hasn't actually done one, but he keeps going into fakie when he lands, like, or going towards it. Any tips that I should give him?
Like he over rotates?
Yeah, like he's doing it over a spine and he's like over rotating. And I was telling him, I'm like, I feel like it's because when he goes into it, he really almost like flips it out, like he's really upside down, whereas you want to be kind of 90 in the air, at least from what I've seen like people do, especially like over a spine at least.
Yeah, I always had trouble doing the straight ones because I did the 180 so much.
Yeah.
It's just you just kind of lean and just don't carve as much. It's weird.
Okay, cool. I'll let him know not to carve as much. Now here's a question for you. Do you think that the Ben Huck hand plant can on the dinosaur actually happened?
Like he pulled it?
Yeah, did he pull it? Because there's a photo. It was a cover photo, but there's never footage of it.
I mean, I think Jared Sowney shot it, and I would say I don't know if wasn't there footage? I swear there was footage.
I don't think so. I think there's footage of him doing the hand plant, but he had a photo on like a cover of him doing a hand plant like can on this dinosaur.
Yeah, I know exactly. We had it in our office. Like, Chris Katsonis from Odyssey. Odyssey Sunday, right? They got like a big blow up of it because it's so rad. I don't know.
That has been like a super controversial photo in BMX for like a little while at least. And I think that like, the guys at Team Weed 420 on Instagram definitely really blew that up again. Like I remember when it kind of first happened, people were kind of like, oh, there's no way it happened. And then everything kind of died back with it. And then they started posting stuff on it. And now I know that like everybody is back on that trend, but
I don't know. I think, I don't know. Maybe someone should go do it.
Right?
Recreate it and show that it's done. Like, Because didn't people have done bar spins? Like there's bar spin hand plans or X up, like obviously one-handed X up hand plans and stuff.
I have no doubt in my mind that it like didn't happen. You know, like I feel like if you're getting a cover photo, it almost has to be like that it happened. You know, like I don't really know how many cover photos are out there that are controversial. Like maybe, you know, you shot a better photo and you didn't land at that try. But if like my logic on it has always been like, if you have landed that trick at that setup during that day, then that photo counts, whether it was a photo that didn't land it or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I think because it was a dig cover too, right? Those guys wouldn't. Yeah, those guys are pretty upstanding. So
yeah, exactly.
As far as I know, but yeah, I would argue that it's landed, and then to prove it otherwise, please do. But if right now in my head, I'd like say it's landed.
Oh, probably.
It's on dig. It's Jared, and it's been like while I can't imagine doing it myself, I wouldn't say that other people couldn't do it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's landed.
Oh, probably.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah. Anyways, what do you think your best downside hand plant was? I would say it was the Texas Toast one.
Yeah, I really didn't do that many, right? Like,
yeah. There was another
one. I
one.
don't think I ever.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. There was another one that I showed on stream there where it's like from a quarter pipe into a vert wall and you grab the quarter. That one was really good as well. But I would say personally the Texas Toast one was just so stalled out and looked awesome.
Yeah, that's the one. The first one that one with the into the vert wall was from King Tooth Grills at the factory in Georgia, and I think that was the video. Yeah, and like that was awesome. That was the first one that it felt smooth and got the hands on and all that stuff, but it wasn't back into a quarter pipe. You know, it was like a transfer.
Right.
That's awesome. It got on coping, but it's not like the ultimate goal. Like I think with any riding, it's always just like working towards something. But the culmination would be the Texas Toast one. That's like what I dreamed of. It's 99% what I dreamed of. I would love to have been able to stall it. I probably did it so many times the following day on the Sunday at Texas Toast because I was like, I want to stall this. I want to stall this.
That's awesome.
For some reason, the hand plant worked. Like I hadn't tried one. It was years prior, and I'm literally like on the way. It was sort of my coup de grace to BMX in a sense, and I just like because it was a Masters best trick and high air contest, and it was like, you know what was interesting? It was like I was riding with all my peers. Not that like just because you're on a BMX bike doesn't. It's weird to say, but people at my age were more my peers. People at my age on a BMX bike are my peers than just anyone on a BMX bike. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's people that, like, probably similar skill levels and whatever, and it was just awe. I was like, oh, could there be Masters divisions in BMX, right? And because in running, there's a Masters division.
Mm-hmm.
And it was neat. It was neat to kind of, that's the weird thing about BMX now. I still think it's, like we were discussing, it's 40 years old, but it really only focuses on like younger riders. And when reality it's like there's like you said, there's a guy 6 years old racing or riding the pump track or riding the jumps.
Yeah,
there is this whole like other world.
Oh yeah, there's a dude in London too. That's like London, Ontario. He's in his 50s, and he rides the Medway Bowl there, which is like, I don't know if you've ever seen that bowl. It's massive.
I think I just saw it on Instagram today.
It's massive.
Somewhere. Maybe I think I was checking on your stuff, but I saw it there. Yeah.
But anyways, that bowl is crazy big, and he rides that bowl like every Wednesday. Like that's his thing. He goes out there, and he's well in his 50s, like jumping the spine, and the spine has like a 6-foot part to like an 8-foot part on the other side. So like it's real gnarly. And this guy is constantly just killing it, like out there riding. And I love that. Like, I think that that's such a great way to do it. I feel like as you get older, transitions and dirt jumps become the new normal. And like bowls, obviously, because like riding street, there's so much that you can do, but at the same time, you can't really. I feel like as you get older, it's harder to take big landings like that, right? Like it's at least if you're doing bigger stuff. But what's your opinion on that?
I would say that, like, I think your time becomes less available, right?
Right.
So, like, maybe these dudes, when they're older, probably more likely to have family and kids. So maybe they have such a short time. Like, that dude only has Wednesdays. So imagine, like, going to do a feeble grind on that. Maybe they like that, you know, but I think the bowls and the jumps and, like, pump tracks and those things, like, gives you that thrill. But also, you could ride it in a way that you're probably not going to bleed.
Yeah.
Like, you could ride a pump track and go fast and, like, manual between rollers and do, like, relatively safe jumps. And you still have to work on Monday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you're going to be, you're less likely to throw yourself, but you still get that thrill, which I think is, like, I've been kind of, like, extolling the virtues of pump tracks these days, and the idea that, like, it kind of blend. You could have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old on the same thing, and it is not the guy who does the gnarliest trick that's the winner. It's the person with the biggest smile.
That's such a great point.
Yeah, and, like, that's, like, there is that side of BMX that, like, has to be the gnarliest trick, and that's great. But you probably won't see a 50-year-old person doing that. But man, you know, like, in the end, it's all about the smile, regardless of how you get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that. That's like the main thing with BMX, you know? That's something that, like, I love riding BMX, but, like, there's more to just riding to me in BMX. Like, that's why I do a podcast. That's why I film DVDs. That's why I host jams. That's why I do anything that I do is basically just because it puts a smile on my face and it makes my life better to constantly be, like, doing something within BMX, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's, like, because you're helping build the scene or connect people, and, you know, like, you do that and you inspire the next person to do the same thing.
Absolutely. And, like, one thing that I think that you could 100% agree with is just the fact that, like, if you want a good, like, an awesome BMX community and you don't have it, you've got to build it. Like, you've got to, you know, you've got to do those things. You've got to host jams. You've got to do the stuff that, like, myself, like what I'm doing, or the stuff that you did with Sunday and Sunday's bike shop too, as well, and everything. Like, I just think that all of that stuff ends up building a better community. Like, if you think about Texas and the way that, like, you know, the city of Austin is, that is like a BMX capital in the world. Like, when you think BMX, instantly, like, the first 3 places that I think of in the world is, like, Austin, Texas, Barcelona, and Montreal.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, like, Sunday Odyssey moved their R&D and stuff to Austin, because it was, like, the capital of BMX, right? It's kind of year round. You always get people in, and people always want to go there.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, House Park is, like, you could go to House Park on any day of the week and ride with a big name pro.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like Chase Hawk's riding there, like, every day. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, because you go there, like, all right, who's here?
Yeah, exactly.
Where are they?
Oh, man, this has been so awesome so far, Jim. I gotta say, like, I wrote so many questions, and typically I like to write, like, you know, 30, 40 really good questions, because sometimes people, you know, are able to answer them really quickly and we can move on to the next subject. But this has been so awesome. I've only got, like, 7 or 8 here that are done. I'm loving this.
Okay, I'm a long talker. So.
Oh, it's great. That's perfect for a podcast, you know? So my next question for you, what video part do you think featured your best riding, or that you were the most proud of? And before you jump into that, in my opinion, I got to say Odyssey Electrical was my favorite. The music matches up perfectly with the style of riding. And for those that are unaware, the song was Make My Dreams Come True by Daryl Hall and John Oates. On top of that, like, you know, a perfect song choice. The filming and the editing was amazing. You can tell that there was a lot of effort into making that video part, but also making it fit with the rest of the video.
Yeah, I would argue, like, I like that one a lot because I think it was, I think the whole video kind of was like, I thought I'm going to say the video I thought was really good, but I think it's a different style. It isn't just banger, banger, banger. It has like this weird kind of, I don't know, like there's a film quality to it. There's more aesthetic to it besides just banger, banger, banger. I like that part a lot just because I think it was sort of a transition period at that point in time. That was 2007 or so, and I was running the shop or doing the shop and then doing the bike company. So my time was really like kind of, I didn't have as much time. And so I couldn't really focus on the tech. And I was also kind of really influenced by skateboarding because I had a skate shop at the time. And some of the people like that I really liked, like Ricky Oyola, or the skaters that like went fast and could do stuff like almost spontaneous. Like imagine just riding down the street and you're like, oh, here's something, and do something and keep going. And one of the things I really liked about the part was the idea of like, if you did a line, like I didn't want to pedal. I wanted to go as fast as I could and keep the speed throughout. Right. It's sort of like a weird kind of, and that was not very joking in a sense. Like I was like in the skating, and it was a fun. Like we filmed the opening, like you're seeing right here. That's like about Baldy at night.
Yeah,
like riding a full pipe in the dark. Like that was wild. And like, you know, this is here in Buffalo, and it's sort of like it's me like kind of joking around. Obviously, like it's just kind of a joke trick, right? But it's like a funny joke trick. I don't know. It's just like. And like here, just trying to keep the speed while doing the stuff. I like this part a lot, I think, and also this idea of riding. Like, I think I've only done 2 good tail whips in my life, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
Like no foot adjustment, just landed like, and it was like the idea of taking a bank and making it a quarter pipe. It's just a quarter pipe with a kink in it.
Very good point. Yeah. Yeah, this part...
Yeah, and just kind of... Go ahead.
Sorry, this part is just so cool to me. Like, whenever I watch it, it gets me so stoked on riding. And I think it's just because of, like, you can tell how much fun you're having on the bike. And that was the whole thing with, like, Sunday and Odyssey's branding was, like, you know, the bright, colorful bikes and just being, like, in a happy, good mood. And I think that the song choice is like just icing on the cake, you know, like it's literally the cherry on top. Like, I was thinking, I'm like, if anybody was to song jack this, I don't think they'd be able to do it as well as your part was, you know, made out to be. Like, right. It's just so good.
Yeah, it was like, my friend Mindy, she was like, you should use this song, right? And kind of like, and I heard it, and I was like, it kind of goes like, did you ever see like the first Odyssey video where I used Duran Duran?
Yeah.
It kind of has this like fun, there's like a funness to it. Like, it's almost like weirdly cheating in a sense. Like if people use Metallica, like you're like, all right, this part better be heavy, but is it the song that's making it like fun? Or making it gnarly, or is it like the riding making it gnarly, right?
Right. That's a really good point.
But with this, yeah. So it's like I think at this point I was sort of like I always like held the idea that like because I was probably in my 30s. When was this 2007? So I was 34, 35 at this time.
Yeah.
And the idea of like I always thought I'm old. And I'm not going to be able to do this much longer, so I might as well do the exact things that make me laugh or make me have fun, or what I think would be like enjoyable, and do it that way. Because pro riders' careers are real short, and you only have small windows. So you might as well do exactly what you want, and just do what you want, because you don't want to get to the end of whatever you're doing and be like, oh, I did it the way like I thought it should be done by like how other people do it. And no, I was like, I'm just going to do what I want because I have a short window, and so I think that's where my like the funny. I don't know if people thought me as funny, but I don't know. I would hope. I think some of the tricks are really obviously like ridiculous, like the Ender clip where I like totally missed the rail or missed the thing, and I kind of laugh about it. Like it's the antithesis of like the banger clip.
Yeah,
complete opposite.
Yeah, I love that.
And if you look at like the other riders in the video, they don't have like gnarly endings. It's kind of this like I think was it Aiken or Chase had I think Chase had the whip, right?
I think so.
Like
yeah.
For the ender. Yeah, and it was like it's not a gnarly ending, but it's like, man, I bet very few people will ever learn and look as good as Chase doing a whip.
Oh yeah.
Like you can't learn a whip into a foam pit, but if you learn tricks, and I don't know, it's hard to learn style into a foam pit, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It takes a lifetime.
Yeah, like style is one of those things that riders want, and like it's something that a lot of people unfortunately don't have. Like there's some dudes that are just unreal and they look so good on a bike and like just the way that they ride. A good name to bring up with that would be any of like Chase DeHart's video parts, especially like his cult parts. Everything fits so well. And when I had Robbie on the show a couple weeks ago, we were talking about that, and like just the fact that like Chase looks so good riding street, and like he's able to make it look so effortless and easy. But I don't know if he'd be able to do the same thing while riding like, a set of trails. Like that's just not for him mainly. Like I don't know. I think Chase is he's a street rider at heart, like realistically.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like, what would go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say that you mentioned the whole song and like how sometimes when, if somebody has a heavy part and they have like a heavy song, does that play into it, or does it make it that much better of a part just because of the song choice? I would say absolutely. And I think that as an editor and somebody who's made 2 full lengths, that was something that I really, really, really put a lot of effort into. And like in my videos, the way that I edited everything was like, it has to match up with certain parts of the song. Like if a part of the song is slower, you can't just have a faster clip, or like, if there's a specific part in the song where something changes, you can change it with the clip. And like it all plays into it. Like it's a big role. So like props to I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting his name, but he filmed and edited the Odyssey video, like the electronical, sorry.
Well, it was Chad Shackelford and Will Stroud.
Yeah. Unbelievable by them, like that's awesome. That is something that like is so difficult to make, like I don't know, just look good, is picking like a specific song, especially like an upbeat song like that, and using it in a way that like, makes the whole part so easy to watch.
Yeah, it was just fun. I still hear that song, like it'll come on the radio and I'm like, that feels good.
Yeah. And like typically when I'm doing research for these, I like to, pick out specific clips and like talk about them. But I had such a hard time because I would be watching the part and I didn't want to have to stop and like write down what I was writing, or like, watch the clip over. Like the whole video just works so well that like I literally just sat there and watched the whole thing a couple times.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you agree that that was probably your best part, or do you have a different part that you think was better?
I would argue, I think, because you think about it, like we were saying earlier, like you don't really have that many DVD full parts, right? So in my life, there's probably there's parts video, the 2 Kink videos, 2 Odyssey, and then I did 1 Sunday, and then I did 1 for my shop, and it's the Hey Man Woo part. And I like that one because I, in a weird way, I don't know if this is the best word to say it, but it's like I wasn't selling anything, and I didn't have to sort of live up to anything or anyone besides my own, like, what thrills me. And I had, like, I had a good friend that filmed it with me, and I had, like, all the shop guys, and it was just it was for my shop. So it's kind of like, and I feel like I kind of pushed it with a bunch of things. I like that one. And then I'll probably say, like, Cheap Thrills was really cool because I don't think so that was the second cake video. The first one, I screwed up. Well, not that I screwed up, but I kind of learned a lesson. I should have done it. Like, I should have been a little more proactive and whatever. And, like, there was just obviously, like, this kind of weird wall rides and, like, they're just weird. Like, for me, it's just kind of a good one. And, like, this is, like, me looking at the camera, doing the bar spin, and then here's, like, my whole shop team, all the skaters, like, all kind of just really funny joking. And he, like, doing the 360 over the fence. Like, you really didn't see bunny hop threes over stuff at that time. And it was just super Buffalo. Obviously, we're looking right at a Buffalo. And this kind of, like, idea of, like, 180 over a rail, like this thing. Like, I play pool at a bar across the street from this, and man, I walked by that thing a million times, and it was the idea, like, all right, here's something completely stupid. Can you do something here, right? On the idea of just riding through it. Like here, I kind of land between the two signs, and just like I like this one a lot. I think Cheap Thrills was pretty good because it was sort of a response to, like Wasted Days, which I didn't think I did as well. And then even like the parts video, like kind of the first video part, I think they hold up for like different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even, like, I like kind of like this. I did it in electronical, but like here, like a gap. This is a gap into like this jersey barrier, so it's a normal jersey barrier, and it's kind of just tight and weird. If you go the wrong spot, like it could get wild. It's just awkward, like weird, awkward stuff, like board moving.
Yeah,
and like just sort of scraping Buffalo for parts for clips, like in this thing.
I love it. I think it's great. Like, and the fact that you mentioned this earlier, but the fact that you were able to kind of do this and not have anybody in charge, or like, it sounds really bad, but nobody to answer to. Whereas, like, if you're filming an Odyssey part, you've got to be able to hold up to the rest of the riding and the rest of the crew. Whereas with this, it's like, this is your shop. It's your own video. You can kind of do what you want to do, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like, I guess I mean, there's a responsibility to the other riders in the video, but it was like, I guess in a weird way, like I owned it, Like, I could do whatever I want, like, and
well, I think it's just having the freedom, like realistically, it's just like filming another video part, but you have more freedom in this case. Yeah.
And like, and one of the things I remember, like, just the shop, the skate guys were all kind of young, and one of the ideas, we're all mesmerized, but like, oh, I want to go to California. Why don't we have these perfect rails like in California? And this idea that, like, well, we don't do, there's things to do here. And I was like making the thing. I'm like, I could film a video part within a mile of this place. And it was really just kind of opening your eyes up to like the clip before was this rail, or I'm sorry, jumping through the tree. Like, this is weird. You're not going to get like, a 360 whip, blah, 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 like you're going to have to like make up, and like stuff is there. Like, things are there, and I think that's the beauty of like you have like a weird place to live, but it does have assets that places don't have.
Yeah, the Ender clip there is insane. I love that. The X Games Xmas. I love that. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is such a good video part, honestly. Like, and I think that you've kind of, we already mentioned that, but yeah, when you're filming something in your hometown, like there's so much more that you can kind of do, you know, and like that's one of the things that I love about our videos is that they're mainly filmed in like Kitchener or any city in like southern Ontario as well as Montreal. And I think it's just so rad because like these are all our spots, and like if somebody like the kids that have just started riding in the last few years, I had some of them watch my most recent video, Space Goats, and they were blown away by some of the shit that's been done in town. They were like, I cannot believe that like people have done this. Like that's so crazy.
That's awesome.
And you know what? It's going to be really cool to see where they go in the next like 10 years and see what they're doing in 10 years, right? Like maybe they won't be riding anymore, or maybe they might be filming videos and trying to create a community, you know?
Yeah. I mean, they see you do it, and you're like, all right, I could do that too.
Oh, exactly.
You know?
Oh,
yeah, that's
right.
funny to see imagine what it's going to be like in 10 years. Oh my God.
Yeah, it'd be insane. Like some of the like things that people are doing now. Oh my God. Like I can't imagine what the standard is going to be. And I was talking to there's a younger kid that is just one city over from us. His name's Johnny. This kid is like 16 or 17. He's real small. Like he literally looks like you on that red bike doing the curb endo on his on his bike. But this kid has been absolutely like destroying it, like just doing so good. And he's only been riding for like 3 years, and he's doing like crazy tricks and everything. He full cabbed down this like 8 stair in town that like there's been a lot of tricks done there by a lot of like really like big names and stuff like that, like just so crazy. And he full cab down it, and that's something that has never been done there. Like I filmed a dude do a truck driver down it, and that was the gnarliest thing. But like he just sends me this clip, and he's like, "Hey man, like I thought I'd show you this because you're a Kitchener guy," and it's him full cabbing this set in the middle of like December, -30 in a winter jacket, like just so crazy. But yeah,
hungry and doing it when he can.
Yeah, and I think like I was talking to him the other day, and one of the things that I mentioned to him is the fact that like him as a younger rider, like his generation of riders, there's so many young dudes like under 17 in Southern Ontario that are on top of the world right now, like just killing it, and they'll be the next like set of pros that are coming out of Canada. But I think that it plays into the fact that like these kids sit on Instagram all day, and the only BMX that they're like, you know, shown every day is clips from some of the best riders in the world, where it's like it's a 15-second clip after 15-second clip of like the craziest riding, you know, that happened that week. And I think that that plays into it, right? Like they see that and they're like, "Oh my God, like this is the way that BMX is supposed to be. I have to do all this stuff in order to be like a somewhat decent rider." When in reality, it's like any video part, if they were to watch that, that's like, you know, years to make that, at least for some videos. Like it's a long time to film certain things. Whereas like Instagram, people are just banging clips out, you know, like they'll go and post one clip, but then when you're seeing like a huge banger after huge banger from 15 different pros all in the same day, it is kind of like, well, what is the standard of BMX at this point? Like, is it just that you can do one big trick a week and post it on Instagram and have like, you know, a big footstep in it? Or should you still be filming video parts and should you still be doing that? Like, I don't know. It's
I guess if you're not part of a team, right? Or if you're not part of a team, and maybe, I guess maybe you could have your own video part, right? But if all you can get is one clip at a time, and like the best camera is the one you have is your phone, right? Or if you have no editing ability, then maybe that's what works. But maybe that's the next step. You know, once you kind of get all these, like you're like, oh, I've done a whole bunch of things, and is that kind of what people do when they do year-end edits? Like, here's my clips from all this year, and it's sort of like a video part.
The way that I do it, I don't know. The way that I've always done it is that I film every single clip with my cameras and I edit everything. Like anybody that's going to be in one of my full-length videos at least, but like Instagram, I don't even post like riding half the time. Like I post maybe a riding clip a month just because like, and half the time it's just something super easy that just took me a minute to do. And it's because I'm hoarding all this footage, right? Like all of my best riding
Yeah.
is in my video parts. Like I've done 360s off of roofs, I've done huge handrails, I've done all this stuff, but you wouldn't think so unless you saw like a photo on my Instagram or if I posted a clip after I had released a video part.
Yeah. It's a tough one because imagine like what if a kid doesn't have that software or even I guess in a sense if that's what they see every day is clips on whatever or on Instagram, then they're like, well, that's what you do. But I guess they may not realize these clips are probably part of a larger video. I don't know. It's a tough one. I don't know. I think of like Instagram and social media as the way it's like democratizing, like the promotional power. Like I think my fact that I became a pro and had a BMX career is completely due to the fact that I was located close to kink, and I was close to kink. I teamed up with Jeff Cielencki, who's upcoming photographer at the time, and I got on Road Fools, like Road Fools and props, but I wouldn't have been on those things if I didn't like realize that I was doing that, or I had these connections, and then add my own spin to it to be unique and whatever. But it was definitely like there are plenty of riders out there that are amazing that didn't have the access. But now, like Instagram and all those, now you're like, go for it. Like BMX brands and props and Ride BMX, they don't make pros anymore. Like the pros can make themselves by social media, YouTube, whatever. And like, yeah, I think that's like empowering, I think.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing. I think that, it kind of gives the power to the people, like to determine whether you're a worthy candidate to be a pro. Like, and something that you mentioned there was that, you were able to kind of like, you're a marketable person. Like if you are a pro, no matter what, like just because you're good on a bike, it then determines that like you have to be able to market yourself as well. And that's something that like when you look at print media or DVDs or anything like that, that's all marketing at the end of the day. And it kind of is the same thing now. Like you can't go on Instagram and see a clip of a pro that's sponsored without tagging their sponsor in the bottom. Like that's, of course they're going to do that. Of course they're going to have it like in their bio, or they're going to make it very aware, because that's their job. That's why they get paid to ride. They don't get paid to ride just because they're good. They get paid to ride because that company can then market that person.
Yeah, they could sell the product.
Exactly. That's the thing. They have to be able to sell a product, whether it's them riding and proving that that product can withstand it, or it's just their riding in general. Like it all comes down to that,
Yeah, or they just have a really a personality that are like people are like, oh, I like that guy. I like his stuff.
Absolutely. A good example of that is Tom Dugan. I remember when his Day in the Life video came out, and like one of the first things that I saw from Dugan years ago was a trip that him and Aaron Ross went on to, I think it was Korea or India.
Yeah.
And like that was one of the first things that people had saw of Dugan, and like his riding style is awesome because he's just kind of a guy that, gets up and goes and does like a big thing, but like there's not too many tricks involved with it. But a big part of that was the fact that his personality, right? He was a funny guy. He was able to be on camera and like, just be funny and get people excited to ride. And like instantly, people would think like, if I think of Dugan, I think of Fit and Odyssey right away. That's like one of the first things. So.
And you think of like Aaron Ross is sort of very similar. He's got the wildest tricks, but like super likable personality.
Absolutely.
And really open to talking to people. People like he's so approachable. I love this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember being so nervous to like talk to him years ago when I met him at that backpedaling jam we were talking about earlier. But yeah, super easy. I sent him a message like a couple of weeks ago to do the show, and he said he's interested, but he just had a kid, so like we're gonna wait it out a little while.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but he is such a he's a marketable person because he's a nice dude. Like it's one of those things that if you want to be pro, at least in today's day and age, you've got to be able to do certain things. And one of those is like be, approachable. Like if you're, I don't know, it just sounds really weird, but I can think of a few names off the top of my head. I'm not going to name anybody off, but there's definitely some people in BMX that are kind of douchey and hard to come to and like talk to, and they're just not approachable. And I feel like they suffer a lot because of that. Like you have to know that you're a marketable person. Like that's your job at the end of the day.
Yeah. Like it's weird, but like you don't have to be the greatest rider. Like there's dudes out there that are completely gnarly and maybe not as approachable, and maybe they may not even have to be as gnarly, but if they were as more approachable, then they could, they would reap so much more, or you'd have a bigger audience. I mean, it's not about audiences, but it is. I mean, I guess if you have sponsors or whatever, but man, being approachable goes a long way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And also it goes a long way, but it also creates the next generation.
Oh, of course. That plays a big role. I remember
like my only one story that kind of set me right was or showed me the way, like when 1989 or 88 or something. Like I grew up flatlanding the plywood hoods and whatever, but Marky made all the videos, right? I found his phone number in the yellow pages, right? And BMX was waning, and so I remember calling him, and I spoke to him for like an hour on the phone. The phone bill's crazy, right? Back in the day, right?
Yeah.
But he was so nice and like still like just completely nice and open and whatever. And then I just remember like how nice he was, and I was like, all right. Not that I ever thought I would be a pro, but I just remember that moment being like, all right, well, this is how I was treated, and so I want to treat people that way. So that's my my story about being nice.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think that's like I don't know. As we've said, like it's a thing that you need in today's day and age in BMX. Yeah, how are you doing for time? We're almost at 2 hours, and I've got so many more questions. This has been so great, but like I don't want to hold you up. So,
why don't we just do another half hour or something? That's
sure.
Fine. We're just speed through questions.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's do this. So I've got some questions about Sunday and Odyssey. Obviously, like you played a big role in the way that like Sunday was directed. Like you were a brand manager at Sunday. But let's start from the beginning. So. Can you tell us a little bit about leaving Kink in 2005 to start Sunday Bikes as well as the Sunday Bike Shop?
Okay, so Odyssey again is like one of the most progressive companies, regardless of era, right? And to know Chris Katonis, who basically, I don't think people realize who he is, but he's basically the guy that really fueled this change. He was the catalyst for all this change, and him and I worked really well. He's actually from Rochester. And so when I first spoke to him, we like connected, and he and I have similar backgrounds or whatever. And he would come back every year for the holidays, right? And I would come out from Buffalo and see him in Rochester, and he would always have like something to show me, right? Like I saw the first like 41 thermal cranks, and I saw like the designs for my pedal and all this stuff. And we were like one Christmas 2004, somewhere around, it had to be 2004. We were like, I was about to start my shop, but then he was out for Christmas, and we just talked. Like, not that Kink was great. Kink was like limited in their ability to make products, and I was probably, running into any headway, right, or running into headaches, of course. Look at anything, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect. And so we spoke about the idea of like Odyssey doing a frame, but Odyssey themselves couldn't do a frame because then all the other team riders, like you couldn't have Aiken on the team. You couldn't have all these because they already had frame sponsors. So Odyssey had all these ideas. We had all these ideas for doing a frame. And then it was just like, let's just do a company, right? And we'll do it under me. And what happened. And then it took a while to figure out the name, but it was like Sunday. The idea is the shop name came from the idea that, on Sundays we would always go skate or ride and then hang out and barbecue and hang out with our friends. It was just this really not serious, but serious, but like, it's just a fun vibe. And when you put a name, like, there's no imagery that comes from it, right? Like, if you, like, nothing against Demolition, but if you say your brand called Demolition, you could probably predict your graphics are going to be.
Yeah,
it's gonna
exactly.
Be like weapons and explosions and stuff. So Sunday is just like, what is it? Nobody knows. It could be anything. So I remember telling the guys, I was telling the guys at Kink, well, Kink had blackout distribution, and they distributed Sunday in the U.S., on the East Coast, essentially, and right away. And I remember telling them, well, I'm going to leave, but I want you to distribute the stuff. So it was not like I left. I changed roles in a weird way.
Yeah.
And so they ended up being distributor, and Sunday we went on. It took a year to make the frame because obviously we did the hollow dropouts, and we did, what else we do? We did a bunch of weird angle brake mounts and stuff like that. But, eventually we got all that stuff out. But that was sort of like an interesting, fun period, obviously, of like, oh, what could we do? What could we make now?
Hell yeah. A buddy of mine actually has like a V1 Sunday Funday frame that he actually had on his bike recently. Like, he found it for a really good deal and ended up picking it up, rode it for like 6 months, and now it's just sitting at his house. And when I told him that I was going to do the show with you, he instantly was like, oh my God, like, is he coming to the office? Like, I need him to sign this. So one day, if you're in the area, like, even if you're in Toronto or even a couple hours further, just let me know, and I would love to get you to sign that if that's cool with you. Yeah,
that would be awesome. I would love to. I've been meaning to come see Giant Rider every sometime, so.
Hell yeah.
I will definitely hit you up if I do. We can't even cross the border yet, so.
I know. I've been really wanting to, I've been thinking about potentially, like, getting people that don't live as far. Like, you're only in Buffalo. It's not too far. I could have paid for, your trip up here just to have you face to face. But, like, with COVID and everything, we can't do that right now. So,
yeah.
At some point, though, like, whenever, borders open up again, I'd love to have you come by the studio. I mean, we're in Kitchener anyways, so you might as well, right? Like, if you're coming to see John. But, yeah. Anyways, so it seems like everybody at Kink really took it pretty well then, eh?
Yeah, no, it was pretty awesome. I remember there's two main guys. Well, Zach, who owns it, and then Chris Riesenberger, who's like been a sales guy there forever. I don't know it's quite his role now, but I remember I told him first, and I told him wrong in the sense of I was like, I'm leaving, and he's like, wait, what? And I told it out of order. And then when I told Zach, I was like, all right, I'm going to do a bike company, and I want you to carry it.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably worked out a lot better that second time, eh?
yeah, totally. It was definitely like, it took him a second to think that, oh, wait, you're leaving,
Yeah.
So it was pretty funny. Quick, wording check.
There you go. Oh, man. So as a brand manager of Sunday, one of your roles would have been basically just to lead the company in a certain direction, whether it be like, the way that things were done, aka like the color of bikes, everything. What were some of the things that you did as a brand manager, and what were some of the things that you didn't expect to have to do going into it?
Obviously, like, pick the team and pick product color. I think colors is the wildest. I think colors is like, I think it's funny because the colors are what we are known for, and the colors are still prevalent. People still talk about them today. I don't think a lot of the modern colors people talk about, maybe in 5 or 10 years they will. But like, think about all the Aaron Ross colors, and then even like the toothpaste and cream school, whatever. Like, people remember those.
Yeah.
I think one of the weirdest things was like learning, especially when we did complete bikes, was was the idea that like everything we make, like not like 90% of the stuff we make, I wouldn't ride. And it's not because I don't think it's good. It's because I think like skill levels are different. And like for a kid who is, just starting, he doesn't need a pro level bike because his skill level will never, or not right now, will never his skill level will not need that. Like it's just too much and it costs so much more. It's kind of a weird thing to learn. And you're like, oh wait, there's different riders out there. They're not just pro dudes that are pro people that are going to use this strength. I remember like the first one was when I had my shop. I think like the first day we opened, we like all I had was like really good chains, and a kid came in the shop and was like, I need a chain, and he wanted to buy from us, but he literally like was like 14, just learning to ride, and it's like, man, I don't have a chain that in your price level and in your skill level. And I was like, oh, there's different needs out there. I think I was realizing that, to cover riding, and like if you're a rider-owned brand and you don't make complete bikes, or you don't make bikes of different value and all that stuff, or strength and quality, like you're different. Like you're kind of blowing it. You're letting other brands who carry that stuff like take over or have the pie, I guess, in a sense. I don't know, it's a weird way, but like thinking about like a 12-year-old with, $200, you're like, do you want them to ride a Huffy? Do you want like they want to ride this? Like they're not going to get the best bike ever that a pro could ride, and they don't need that. So learning that was kind of a big thing.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely like, as somebody with a higher skill level on a bike, you don't really think about that kind of stuff. And we just recently built up a bike for my girlfriend, and like she doesn't ride, like she can barely do a bunny hop, but like she wanted a bike, so we went out and grabbed her parts, and like after doing all of that, I'm kind of like, I should have just bought her a nice complete. Like I spent almost the same amount just on like buying a used bike online, and then decking it out with older parts or like parts that I'm not using anymore. But like I could have just bought her a new bike and it would have been great. Like I should have just done that. But I definitely agree with you though. Yeah. Like the skill level is something where like I went and put a chain on her bike, and I was like, well, she doesn't need like the newest half link chain. Like she's not even going to use that. Like she doesn't run pegs. She doesn't like do anything like that. So yeah, I think it's kind of,
and like it's the gateway, right? Once you kind of get them rolling, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, you break something. You're like, okay, all right, let's keep building, keep adding.
I think that's like half the fun of starting to ride. That was like one of the things that I loved, was that I bought a bike off of like Kijiji or something, and basically just built it up as I went. Like my first ever bike was or my first true BMX bike was like a Dave Mira, or not Dave Mira, but a Miraco Black Pearl bike. And the first aftermarket part that I ever bought was a set of the the Odyssey Director forks. And I remember like just feeling so stoked on that.
Yeah, but that's like, it also teaches you like kind of how to work on your bike in a sense.
Oh yeah, all of those skills. Like I know so many people that are unreal on bikes. Like can do any trick that you call out, cannot change a tube. And that's like that's the thing. It blows my mind. Like I literally had a dude who was doing like flare bars ask me to change his tube for him because he just didn't know how. Like, how are you able to do all of this and not be able to like even take your back wheel off? Like that's so crazy to me.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
That's incredible.
I mean, we're not judging you, but we're kind of judging you. Like
But I mean, there's a reason why that happened, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder what the reason is. Did they never have access to tools? And how did they not get a flat ever? Or they just have really like enabling friends and never.
I think a big part of it, I worked at a bike shop for a little while, and the one guy, would always just bring his bike into the bike shop and get us to change his tube. And I think it was because his family was extremely well off. Like, he's
Okay.
no longer riding BMX, but instead driving around in like his dad's multiple Lamborghinis and stuff. Like, it's just one of those things that he probably just didn't need to learn it. And like, you know, it's only $10 to take it to a shop and get it fixed, and you don't even have to do anything. Like, you can go down the street
Yeah.
and like come back in 10 minutes and it'll be done, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, hey, I guess what keeps the shop in business, that's cool.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, it does help business, but yeah. And something I wanted to mention, going back on Sunday and like everything, Sunday is one of the only companies in BMX that people have sought out bikes years afterwards. Like a buddy of mine, Alan Peters, he collects Sunday products. Like, he literally had a collection of like every bike that Sunday made. And there's a guy on Instagram who has like literally every colorway.
Clay Dog?
Yeah. And he has the Twitter
Yeah.
bike too. I have some questions about that. But I was going to say, it is so crazy to me that like, you know, a bike company, because my dad, he's a skater. He's skated for like way longer than I've been alive, you know, but he collects skateboards, and that's something where he has, you know, a signed Rodney Mullen deck. He has a Tony Hawk board. He has all these boards, but it's like, it's so easy to just buy a board rather than a bike, right? Because a bike, even just to like go to a shop and buy it, minimum is like, you know, $400 for like the lowest end bike. But any of the Sunday bikes that like, you know, like the way that Clay Dog has been doing it, where he's buying all the aftermarket products that fit on that bike as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so crazy to me. That's like so rad that people actually go that far.
Yeah, I think that's what's. I don't know, because I knew like my coworker, my old business partner, he collected boards, and you get all the skaters that collect boards, and you see, I don't know if it's a connection to your past or what, or even like you think of like the Nike shoe resellers, right? Like dudes that buy shoes and then resell them on eBay, and like there is sort of a market, or there is something. And I think those frames, all like, especially the Aaron ones, like Aaron was just doing all this wild and like, I don't know, probably definitely controversial to some people, but like that stuff like connects, right? Like people, that's the stuff people talk about, right? They like, but whereas if you have another brand who has like a black frame, like who knows? You know, are people collecting it? I don't know. Is it unique and to be collectible?
That's the thing. Like
the Sunday stuff was.
When you think about that kind of stuff, like not many brands are able to, you know, do collectible bikes anyways. And like, you know, if I think about it right now, I can name off 3 brands, and the one that's most prominent is obviously Sunday, but Cult with the like the Simpsons bikes and the different collabs that they've done. I think the Shadow Conspiracy and Sabrosa, they did the Hundreds bike years and years and years ago. And then, you know, most recently with the S&M Supreme bike. Yeah. Like, it's just so crazy to me that's like, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking I might buy one of those Supreme bikes, throw it in the office, never use it. So I'm like, who knows, man? That bike is probably going to be worth a ton, like, in years from now. But who knows?
Yeah, no, it's probably worth it. I mean, I would argue that that's probably a good thing, because then it allows people to, you know, create bikes. Like brands can be like, oh, we could do some unique stuff and then make it a collector, and you kind of create this other market.
Yeah.
Like create this collector-seller market that people are into, and therefore, like, those are the things that might be able to, a brand could, like, make some money off of, and therefore pay their riders properly, or use that money to actually do things.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I just think Sunday was like one of the only companies in BMX that did such a great job at actually being able to market their bikes, not as just a BMX bike, but as a collectible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, it worked out, I guess. I mean, I don't think we planned on that, but it definitely, like, it started to happen, especially like with like Aaron Ross, like the watermelon bike, or even I tried the soda. The orange soda is probably the one, because Aaron did all those wild bikes with, it'd be cool if there was a Stairmaster, like an FBM Stairmaster, like one of the bright colored ones that he did.
Yeah.
Like that'd be a cool collector one too, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that, like, when people think of Sunday, the first thing that they think of is, like, Aaron Ross and vice versa, right? Like, that's just, yeah, it's really cool. It's great, like, branding and great marketing there. But, on the topic of collectibles, so I actually just bought a piece of BMX history, and it's on its way from New Jersey at the moment. And that is the camera that filmed Anthem 2. So they did a raffle for it.
Auction, right?
Yeah, well, they did a raffle, and I ended up not winning. I was really sad about that, but I had hit Stu up a couple weeks beforehand and told him, hey, whoever wins that camera, let them know I would love to put it in my, my studio, and that I'll totally buy it. And Jeff K from New Jersey hit me up and was like, hey, so I want it. I'm not going to sell it unless it's to you, because I don't think anybody else is going to really take care of it as well as you would. And that's the thing. Like, Anthem 2 was the video that got me into really filming and everything. Like, that was one of those things that, like, I have watched that video more times than I've watched my own videos that I edited and everything. That's crazy. So to own that camera is pretty cool. But you're quite the DVD collector, I hear. So how did you get into that?
I don't know where you heard it. I don't really own DVDs anymore.
Oh.
I had a bunch. I had a bunch back in the day. Well, I definitely had a collection back in the day, but I honestly haven't had a DVD player in I think I have one. It's in a box.
Fair
I don't
enough.
even have a TV set up.
Yeah.
I think because I was way early into streaming and seeing it online. Cause one of the things one of the other things I learned from Sunday was especially when we had team riders kind of around the world with Joe Cox and Steven Savage in South Africa. I remember Steven had an ad, and we did an ad with him, and he was or he had a photo or something like that, and he was I was oh, you got that? You got a Thinking Ride? And he was just oh, can you send it to me? Because we will never get it, right? We will never see it. And with BMX blossoming around the world with all the Russians riding amazing and just Eastern Europe and just all these places, as a magazine and even DVD, they were never going to see it because our distributors were slow, or not the distributors, but our process of getting stuff to these brands and manufacturers was slow, or these distributors were slow, and they just weren't going to see it. And so I was man, we got to figure out a way, because how do we take care of our distributors around the world? How do we get them how does our marketing help them? If we advertise in Ride or whatever, it doesn't reach these places. So I was pretty quick to go to social media and go to online. So yeah, I gave away all my DVDs and stuff like that. Probably gave a bunch to Evan Krakow when I left Austin. I was here, take it. You're a keeper. You're like a library. You'll take care of it. I trust you. So.
Yeah, I definitely think even when you were collecting videos and whatnot, that is such a great way to preserve a piece of BMX history. A lot of those videos definitely aren't going to be looked at the same years from now, but there are certain ones Seek and Destroy is one of those videos that people constantly still to this day talk about.
Yeah. I watched the premiere of Chenga World. That was awesome.
That's wild, eh?
Yeah.
They filmed quite a few clips in Kitchener actually for Seek and Destroy.
Yeah. I forgot. Oh yeah, why did they end up there? Do you know?
I would assume because that's when Ryder kind of had opened up, was 1996, and they were there in the late 90s, I believe.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, I wrote an article on my website about history, like the history of BMX in Kitchener, dating all the way back to like when Matt Hoffman pulled the 900 at in 1989, and that was like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, like it's pretty crazy to see how many different companies have been here and how many different like videos are there, you know? Like there's one video that I talk about constantly, and I'm sure my listeners are sick of me talking about it, but it's the Primo Strange Crew video, and it's Dakota Roche, Nathan Williams, Corey Martinez, Dan Lacey, Tony Nair, John Heaton, all riding like local Southern Ontario spots, and a lot of it is filmed in Kitchener, and a lot of those clips
That's awesome.
still to this day hold up better than any footage that's ever been filmed here, and that was almost 15 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like those are all the top 1% of BMX guys right now. Like that is so wild to think that they were all like just younger dudes riding here at one point.
That's amazing. That's amazing they all have come through there. Huh.
Yeah, do it, man. Honestly. But yeah, we're like doing really good here. We've got another 15 minutes or so until our half an hour extension there is finished. So let's oh man, I had so many questions. I'm like, this is so difficult.
Should we do speed rounds? Let's do speed rounds.
Yeah, let's do some speed rounds. So you know, obviously over the years you have switched from 20-inch bikes to 24-inch cruisers. You went back and forth. What made you want to get into riding a bigger bike? This has been something that like you are known for.
I think I like just trying new things. I don't know, like Ben Moore, he's now at GT. He was the one that kind of, as far as I understand, could see the idea. And he was like, "Oh, what do you think? Could we do this for Sunday?" And I was like, "I don't think and up until that point, I didn't ride a road bike or anything, so I didn't really know bigger bikes." And I was like, "Well, I mean, if we can make the prototype and ride them, why not?" And so we did it, and it was wild. It was just such a like. I attribute it to the idea that like, all right, so you have a 20-inch and you have a 6-foot tall quarter pipe, right? You ride it, and then you're like, well, I want to ride a bigger quarter pipe, or I want to ride a tighter quarter pipe. I want to ride this quarter pipe, but you change the quarter pipe in all these different ways and you ride it, but you've never. Now it's the same thing, except for now I just switched the bike. And one of the things was with the 24s prior to this one, like they were all race geometry, and that's why people kind of like dogged them, is the idea that they're like, oh, they have a low bottom bracket, long back end. Like anybody who made them was kind of thinking about racing with it. And we were like, well, can you freestyle with it? Right. And like, there's a dude, Ted Emmers, I think his name is, like in the early 80s riding cruisers, like at Del Mar and all these places. And, everything's been done before. Right. So, we were just like, well, let's do a freestyle cruiser and just see what it's like. And for me to ride it, I just was like, it was just kind of a new avenue. I was like, oh, what about this? What makes it, can it be harder? How hard is it to do all my tricks on it? Do a handrail, blah, 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 and just went down the line. And then I realized I had trouble going. I could easily go from 20 to 24, but going down, it took me a while to get used to it. It was, I know my old coworker, Bobby Parker, he could go switch from bike to bike, like no problem, but I couldn't do it. So that's why you'd sort of see me like either on a 20 or on a 24. It was like, but yeah, it's a super stable bike. When you think about it, like it's a perfect bike for the dude who doesn't get to ride very often and or needs to be able to go to work on Monday. And you could jump it, and it's a lot more stable in the air, and like you're not doing the techest tricks, but so that's kind of where I was at. I wasn't riding as much, and I'm just kind of exploring, see what it's like.
Hell yeah, that's really rad. I really want to get a 24 just to fucking commute on, like just because I think it'd be cool to be able to jump curb cuts and still, be able to sit down and pedal and not have too many issues. So that's on my list of bikes to get.
Yeah, you could run over everything. It's great.
Oh hell yeah! There's a clip I'm gonna show on stream of you going up a like street quarter pipe vert wall thing and then like riding over a rail at the bottom of it. I was showing that to my girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
I showed that to my girlfriend last night. And I'm like, "Do you see what's going on here?" She's like, "No idea." I'm like, "If you were on a BMX, you would be eating loads of shit. Like, there's no way that you could roll over that rail at the bottom. 24, no issue at all."
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So can you name off a few tricks that were easier on a 24 rather than a 20? I feel like bar spins would be one of them.
No, you know what the problem was? The rotational weight of the wheels. Like my first one, the first prototype, the green one, had like these KG super light tires, and I think I used butted spokes on it, so I could do bar spins on it like no problem. So then I kind of got rid of those tires, and it had heavier tires, and the rotational weight like was just weird, and I just kind of stopped doing bar spins. Tail whips got harder, but I think just straight up jumping is so much easier. Like it's just because I think the bike's gotten so finicky with the steeper head tubes and the short back ends and stuff like that. So the 24 kind of balances that out. I'm not doing tech tricks. I'm not going backwards unless it's like a quick 180 or something. So I don't need all that tech stuff. I don't need the shorter dimensions. So I was telling Rob Tibbs, my old King teammate, about it. I was like, because he was asking me about like the old 14 and a quarter inch rear ends that were supposed to be on the original Sundays, but then we opted not to do it because it was sort of like a little bit old. And I was like, you know what, the Model C kind of feels like it has a long back end. Like in the 90s when you manualed, you could make mistakes and you could like you didn't loop out on a manual in the 90s. Where now the back ends are so short. You're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I fucked my foot up. I was doing a feeble down a ledge, like a down ledge, and then trying to do a manual afterwards and looped right out and, fell on my ankle in a real weird way. And then my knee is really messed up. It's been like a full week, and the side of my foot is very black and blue. I went out to a set of trails yesterday just to kind of hang out with my buddy, and I felt so sad because I couldn't ride. It was like, this is the worst.
Yeah, that's not fun, especially the summertime. It's probably nice outside.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been like really hesitant to go to the hospital just because during COVID and all this stuff, like I really just don't know if it's worth it. Like I can walk, like it sucks, but like I don't know if it's worth going to the hospital because I don't think I broke anything. I think it's just a really bad sprain. You know what I mean?
Do you use the Brian Foster rule, the 3-day rule? Like, has it gotten better at all?
Yeah. I've been like, when it happened, I could not walk the next day. Like the next 3 days, couldn't walk, and now I'm able to walk on it. It's still a little sore, but it's nothing that's like, I don't know. It's not terrible.
Yeah, give it a little bit and see what happens, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's my my goal on that. My thing was like I was able to get up immediately and walk up the bank, and like then I had to sit down. But like I was able to walk on it, and it was like it hurt, but it wasn't, like the worst thing in the world, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's no fun. I don't miss those days.
Yeah.
Even though I just fell trail running and blasted my knee off the ground and got cut up, I was like, this feels like BMX.
Oh man. Well, I got one last, question for you. Then we'll do fan questions, and then we'll close it off with another question.
Okay.
So the last one here is, after retiring from BMX, you've really gotten into long distance running. One of the things that you managed to do was that you ran every street in Buffalo, and you actually had a day, which was May 29th, 2016, dedicated to you, called Jim Cielencki Day in Buffalo. So let's start from the beginning there. How did you get the idea to do that run? And like, it's just so cool to me, that's so wild. Like, how many people do you know that have their own day that's like official by the city?
It's pretty wild for sure. I think the idea the idea is rooted in BMX or in street riding and searching for spots. It's like, if you're driving around, you're kind of dead on certain routes, and it's the idea of like, what spot am I missing? Like, what street have I never taken because I kind of get stuck on this route that has the perfect handrail or the bank to wall that you are so close to finding, but you just didn't make that left turn and you always go right. And so what's the best way to do it, right? Travel down every street. And at that point, I was going to train for the Buffalo Marathon. I've already done like precursors of it. Like I ran a 20-mile route in a training run for a marathon, and I went to like my house to like South Buffalo, through East Buffalo to North Buffalo and back. But I always kind of kept looking, and it was like that mystery of like, what else is out there? Like I would love to have found, like, I want to know what's out there. I want to scour a place and fully understand it. And that's essentially the roots of it. The idea of like, all right, let's just start and see where we end up and see what we find. And I found a lot of old houses, and I really didn't find any bike spots.
How crazy is that? It's like, I wanted to do this just so I could find new handrails. Like, I didn't find any. I found a bunch of cars that were really cool, some old houses. If you guys want to know more about that, you actually did a insane TED Talk on it that was really cool. I really liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really good, honestly. Like, public speaking is definitely one of those things that's very hard for certain people, and you did a great job, so good job.
Thank you. I was so nervous, of course. I went first. There was 10 of us? I think. 8 of us? 10 of us. And I remember being like, we probably all did speeches and had to stand in front of a class in high school or whatever.
Yeah.
And I always went first because I knew like the fear wouldn't build up as I was waiting. And I remember just doing my thing over and over. I would do it while running. I would do it looking in the mirror. I would just see if I could do it anywhere I could, just so I knew, right?
Yeah.
And we did a test thing, and I just remember just like mess up now. Like the night before I was like, if you're going to make a mistake, do it now. And so just screwed up royally, fixed it there, and just went in front of the crowd. It was the scariest thing I've ever done, that's for sure, to stand, because you're not looking at anyone, because everything's dark except for the people in front of you, and you're not going to look straight down. You're sort of looking out, and it's kind of like, I don't know, you're disassociated. You're like, oh, I don't know who I'm looking at. Just go through your thing. It was wild. It was cool. I was very appreciative of it.
That is definitely something that, like, I just passed episode 50 a little while ago, and I had Robbie Morales as my 50th guest. And, like, Robbo played a very big role in the way that I've kind of taken BMX and looked at it. Like, he's always done so many cool things within BMX. And I wrote this awesome intro that I spent, like, 45 minutes just writing like his, bio and his intro. And I like worked really hard to make it perfect, but I have like, pretty severe dyslexia. So like, it's really hard to be able to like just read and stuff like that. So I like, practiced it a bunch. And then when I got in here to do it, I just instantly was so nervous. And like, it's even worse because I can't see the people at all because I'm just in my office. Like I've just got a computer screen in front of me, and the first like 3 sentences were really good, and then I've messed up one word, and then from there it just went downhill. And then when we started talking, we were fine. Like, and it was so weird because I had talked to him on the phone for like 20 minutes before we even started, and I was fine. It was just one of those things that when the camera was on, and then I was just super nervous all of a sudden. Which is crazy because it still happens after 50 episodes, like, of doing this.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. I mean, I remember, like, my buddy was in the crowd, and, like, they took the first 3 people, and we had our person that was working with us, and we were kind of off stage just to the right. And at first we were all talking, and then as it got closer, everyone quieted down, and you could see the nervousness kind of taking over. And I remember, like, I could peek into the crowd, and my buddy was there, and he kind of looked at me, and like, it was cool because I was like, oh, okay, I'm good, and just kind of just went with it. I remember like messing up in the middle somewhere. I forgot a sentence, and like knowing it so well that I reinserted it later on. But man, I was so freaking nervous. It was crazy.
Yeah.
The craziest thing I've ever done.
Well, you did a great job, so shout out to you.
Thank you.
You guys can find that on YouTube. Just look up Jim Cielencki TED Talk, and it should come up. Now, something that really blew my mind was that after the fact, you actually, we had mentioned that the city of Buffalo had made May 29th, 2016, Jim Cielencki Day with the seal of approval and everything. So how did that come about, and what was your reaction to all of that?
Obviously, like, astonishment and appreciation and, like, flattery and, like, obviously, and nerves, right? So the way the whole project worked, right, is it was going to culminate with the Buffalo Marathon. And so I ran the whole city except for the Buffalo Marathon course. And on the day of the race, I was going to run the race and finish the whole project. So the finish line doubled as not just the race finish, but the whole project finish. So May 29th was the day of the race. And so it was like, oh shit, I'm going to finish, but like, no, now I have to finish. Right. And the craziest thing was it was the hottest race they had ever had. It was like 86 for a high. And the way Buffalo works, it always snows like 2 weeks prior. So you never get acclimated to heat. And it was 72 degrees at the start. It was sunny. There was like heat stroke warnings and all this stuff. And I was like when you do races, you have an A, B, and C goal. And my C goal was just to finish. And I was already at the C goal. Like in the first mile, like you need to finish. Nobody cares your time. They just care that you finish.
Yeah.
And so I kind of made it like a weird victory lap. I kind of just like saw people and talked to friends. There was a guy that he was running his first marathon that I met like days prior. And so we ran together to help him get through and help me get through, and like ran by like first best friend, and or he was working a water stand. So I saw him there, and it just became, but it was so hot. It was like, God, that was crazy. I'm not going to say I'm never doing it again, but never matching it up to a race. I was like, I should have done the half marathon, but oh well.
Fair enough. Alrighty. Well, let's do some fan questions, and then we'll end it off after that. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Cool. Perfect. So, your favorite uncle on Instagram asks if you can share a cool Dave Mirra story with us.
Well, I don't really have that many, but I would say May of 1989, going to two-hip King of Vert contest at Woodward, like I mentioned earlier, and Jay Miron was there, but also Dave Mirra. So it's kind of neat, right?
Yeah.
Dave Mirra was so small. I think, was he riding the Haro at that point? I swear he was on a Skyway, but it was just cool to see this really, really little dude blasting. And and there was like, I don't know if there was, because he was in the Dorton videos at that point, and I don't know if there was a sense. I thought there was a sense that he was like the dude coming up, like he was going to be something. Like I don't think. Yeah, that was I would say that's my story. Just seeing him young, or probably similar ages. He's probably younger than me at the time, but like just to be like, oh shit, this dude's going to be good, and of course he was the best. So.
Hell yeah. And then Kevin asks, how many grinds do you think you invented?
Oh man, there was that grind the grind tricks. There was a thing I talked about, like 70 different grind tricks. That was like bar spin in, bar spin out, like kickflip in, kickflip. I don't know if inventing is a weird thing. Like crank fly I think because Lucky did the backwards. He did the luck grind kind of backwards. I kind of like pushed it going forward. Maybe that. I think I did contributions to tricks. I would say lucky grind going forward, holding crank slides and doing crank slides on the like sprocket side, and doing switch crank slides. Kind of like pedal ice.
Yeah.
I think that kind of. I'm sure like the Dirt Brothers kind of did variations of it, and then I kind of like I don't know if I was influenced by those guys, but I definitely took that trick or kind of did it like ice pick style because I didn't want to ride pegs on the other side. No, probably
Fair.
like I think the pedal crooked is probably like sort of one of mine, just because like the way the crooked grind worked, and it was before left-hand drive. If you had your pegs on the right side, and you didn't have 4 pegs, you couldn't do it anyway. But if you had your sprocket on the right side and you grinded on the right, it was hard to do crookeds because your 44 tooth sprocket would hit. But if you grind on the left, the sprocket was out of the way. So I was able to I could grind in the pedal and the sprocket's out of the way and I could still do crookeds. I think that would probably be a contribution. I don't know, it's probably like 3 or 4 right there.
So as somebody
that is.
As somebody who loves the crank slide, who do you think does the best crank arm grinds at BMX right now?
Dudes are so good at it now. There's like so many people. I would honestly, I'm not even sure. Like, there's so many people that do them well. Anyone who could just lock in and do them like down like kink trails. I always trouble with kink trails. I was a loop out. Man, yeah, I don't know. I would argue I don't know. Because there's just so many people that have my lock.
Yeah, absolutely. I can agree with you on that. But my personal opinion is that Ethan Courier, 100%, best crank arms in BMX.
Yeah.
That guy is doing them down S-bend rails. He's doing them down kinkers. He's doing them over crank into like big rails. He's doing them on everything. Like, that is 100% his trick. And one of my favorite things is that he does them super slow. Like, when you are going down the rail, it's real slow and balanced rather than just go fast and slide down as fast as you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. He's just got full control.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It looks super good.
It'd be sick to see someone do crank slide predator, but like crank slide and then hop over, but to like switch your feet and go to the opposite crank slide.
Oh, that would be wild. I bet that could happen on a kinked rail. I might send Ethan a text after this. I have his number. I'll send him a text. Be like, hey man, Jim C wants you to do quick little fucking crank arm to opposite crank arm on a rail.
Video game trick request.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be wild. Oh man. Well, Jim, this has been incredible so far. Thank you. This has been an amazing experience. We have one last question for you, and that question is: after being involved with BMX for over 37 years, what is the most important life lesson you have learned from BMX?
I think the one thing BMX has taught me that sometimes I forget, or probably all forget, is the idea that like you don't learn the trick first try. You just try and try and try, and you don't judge yourself. You just like, I'll just hold on, let me try it like this, and you're always kind of perfecting. And I think that's something you can take to your life. Like your first try is always going to suck. And if you just keep trying more, then you will figure it out and it'll get better. But if you don't try, then it'll never happen.
That's very great advice. That's something that my dad has taught me since day one. As a skater who then turns to a professional tattoo artist and who's been doing amazing art for 30 years now. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's a lesson that most people who aren't in BMX never learn. And like, luckily, because of the father figure that I had, I learned that before I even started riding, is that like, you have to, fall to be able to get something.
Yeah.
Metaphorically and in reality.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends like in the running community that like, I think they probably think I'm weird, which I probably am, but it's more because I'm like, well, fuck it. It's that whole BMX thing, like, fuck it, let's just go this way, or let's go do this.
Yeah.
And it's because we can. It's not because, it's just, let's do it. Because, like, why do we have to follow this old way of doing it? Let's just go this way, or let's try this. And I think that's another thing. It's like, just be willing to look past what you've already done and then go to the next thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. But yeah, Jim, this has been incredible. Thank you so much. If you are coming even close to this area, like please let me know. I would love to meet up with you. But yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Cool. Well,
Dan, it's been great. So
for sure.
I will definitely get a hold of you when I come up.
Hell yeah, that'd be awesome. But yeah, I think we'll end it off here, guys. Thank you guys for whoever stuck around for the whole 2.5 hours today. This has been awesome. So yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Later.